Good morning, and this is Morning Cafe, the second day, actually the third day of the week. It's a Tuesday. Most of the times we're used to saying Mondays are the first days of the week, but we're here. It is the second day for us because we're always here every other day of the weekday. Karibu sana. My name is Linda Alela. Yes, this is Morning Cafe. As always, how you get to interact with us, hashtag Morning Cafe at Linda_Alela TV 47KE, the numbers to call. The SMS short code will be running down on your screen as we proceed to do more and more. It's always a pleasure to have you as we enlighten you, we educate you, we get to have those nice moments together, and importantly, we get to hear your views, which are crucial for us to keep going with the discussions. It's always a pleasure. And as this particular day, we're going to be doing it a little bit different. We said we'll be doing more of barazas once in a while as we engage different leaders or different people on different spectrums as we take a look at, the different issues that are with us. And today we'll be focusing about, on the youths and how they are involved on changes on matters politics, and importantly, the BBI. Just how involved are they on matters that are, the conversations that are ongoing in terms of transforming the nation? Certainly the BBI is one of those, and we'll be looking at just how they have been involved, whether the tone has changed so far or so much so. The recent confession by former governor of Nairobi, that is Mike Sonko, that he participated in stage managing violence and destruction of property, that is during the 2017 elections, and later putting it on ODM, is actually the latest occurrence that shows how our youths have been slaves of doctrines of politicians or the moneyed. Of course, that is in the society. It shows just how much efforts of making the youth actively involved in politics, that is politics of sanity, can be a tall order. So today we have that baraza of youths that are determined to change this negative narrative as we discuss their space in politics and their involvement on change, more so on BBI, like I have rightfully said. So Karibu sana, we'd love to hear from you, for you to be part and parcel of this conversation. That should be later at around 7:30 going all the way to 9. It's going to be a heated debate, so make sure that you keep it right here. But first, as always, we have so much in terms of news. I will look at what it is that my team has prepared, what is on the newspapers, and we also have a panel that is going to help us go through the same. We do not forget what it is that is set for the day. That is on the day's diary, and so much so on the day's quote, and also what happened in such a day on matters history. As always, a jammed up affair, but then again jammed up in a good way. Let's briefly look at what is on the Daily Nation, and this is what we're speaking about: all out war as Kibicho now takes on Sonko after that declaration, or the utterances that I've mentioned about him saying that the Jubilee government in a way was involved or calling upon some certain individuals at that point of elections to cause chaos in the name of these are ODM youths, or these are ODM proponents who are out here to cause chaos and mayhem, something that has triggered a lot of reaction, having seen the ODM party actually coming out to say that there needs to be some probe done on this. Karanja Kibicho, whom Sonko directly accused, says that it is defamation, and he proceeded to say that he is going to challenge this, and Sonko should be out there to explain why it is that he has termed it this way. Story captured on page 13. We'll look at it later. And the Kapedo death a trap for security officers. As you can see, it is not a place for the faint-hearted, and even government knows as much as successive attempts to rein in the terrorist-like gangs have borne no fruit. And well, the Interior CS says that they are going to be out there to see to it that sanity is witnessed or is experienced around the Kapedo Triangle, something that has long been wished for, especially by the locals who continue to have tough times today. The students are not going to school because of these particular clashes or skirmishes that have been witnessed down there. So we look at it and just how possible it is for us to get this sanity at the Triangle. Enjoy a Sunday school, madrasa reopen, COVID-19 council eases restrictions on religious organizations and allows children to attend services and related activities. The story captured on page 9. Indeed, sigh of relief. Most of the parents felt like, yes, the students are really missing out on spiritual nourishment, and it is now time that they can have their kids back to school, even as the numbers of COVID-19 continue to go down. So away from it on matters politics, Mount Kenya owes me political debt. This is what Raila Odinga said. That is yesterday from 2002. He says Kibaki Tosha declaration back to his father's independent support for Jomo Kenyatta, and the ODM leader says it's time that the region returns the favor as he pitches for the Building Bridges initiative as well as his own 2022 State House contest or bid. Captured on page 6, we see how this will be received and the numerous reactions that would come in regards to the same. What is happening in Nairobi? Kananu summons county executive to consolidate grip and increase revenue. BBI key issues in Council of Governors vote. They're set to go out there for the vote to get a replacement of, that is the chair, who is Wycliffe Oparanya, who's gone for 2 terms, so that means he cannot stand to secure his position. So on Friday, the Council of Governors will go out there to vote and see who's going to be their chair. So it's something that is being looked at keenly, even as what is playing out in terms of politics is what is shaping the occurrence right now. Briefly on the Daily Nation, the front page, to Young for Blood, the teen bandits, how was in the north over the cattle are turning boys into killers. That is a story that is captured on page 7. That is in regards to the Kapedo Triangle and how things have become tough down there. Mostly the vulnerable ones are the young thugs, the youths, the teens, who are always really easy to sway to this other side, and maybe they are the very same individuals that are being used to conduct these heinous acts. A story captured on page 7. Students, beware, your indiscipline will haunt you. Directorate of Criminal Investigations will keep record of crimes. A story captured on page 3. So you need to have your students having their top-notch discipline levels, because this would cost them a long way. You go with that record if you did something wrong, while in primary school that record goes or follows you or haunts you all the way through your life, and that will determine the direction that you'll take in life. And so it is important that the students are taught of discipline, and encouraged to uphold the same. So Kenya should brace themselves for higher tax burden inside the attorney's 3.2 trillion budget. How the cake is shared. This is a 7% increase from the 2.8 trillion in 2020-2021, and financing the deficits, executive, amounts that are supposed to be given there, the consolidated fund services, the counties, the parliament, judiciary, IEBC, all how this money is going to be distributed, and whether it we are going to be able to sustain the same is something that many people have been questioning. Spending and what we don't have, definitely they say we've not been able to collect much as there were positive reports coming from KRA. It's evident that what it is that we've been collecting is one that cannot sustain our livelihoods as a nation. That's why we end up running into debt. A story captured on page 4, 5 and 6 of the Daily Nation. Away from it, political debt, Raila says it's payback time for Mount Kenya. That we've looked at on the People Daily, and also something else on matters COVID-19. Kenya crosses 100,000 mark from March last year, when the first case of COVID-19 was confirmed, and it's been a journey defined by successes and equally challenges. A story captured on page 9. We can take a look at that later as we look at just how we've been able to deal with COVID-19. Standard newspaper, it's Kibichos versus Sonko. We've looked at that particular one. A story on page 4. Away from it, you owe me a debt. Again, what it is that Right Honorable Raila Odinga declared, and inside Huru's record 3 trillion budget. That is also one thing that needs to be looked at. And Mighty Salim, another Mugithi great, bows out. That is, the unfortunate news that many woke up to the fans of Mugithi, who probably felt like, this really was coming in too soon. But then again, you cannot question the moves or the works of the maker. And from that bit, we leave it at that on the newspaper. Later on, we'll be looking at that. But importantly, as always, we take a look at what it is that we expect for the day, and that should be on the day's diary. Do we have it ready? Yes, day's diary. What do you expect for the day? And so much is happening. The Wiper Democratic Movement, a Kenya candidate for the Machakos County senatorial by-election, that is Mrs. Agnes Kavindu, will be presenting her nomination papers at the IBC offices today. She will address her supporters at the Mulu Mutisia Gardens. The party leader, Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka, together with other leaders, will be in attendance. Again, Interior Cabinet Secretary Dr. Fred Matiang'i and, of course, the IG of Police, Hilary Mutyambai, will host the President, that is President Uhuru Kenyatta, as chief guest during the groundbreaking ceremony of the National Police Leadership Academy. All right, there you go. And of course, we do not forget this sermon by Anne Kananu to the members of the county assemblies. We follow up closely to listen in or to hear what it is that she will be saying at that point where she is marred by the court battle that stops her from ascending into governorship. And of course, she challenged that. We can only wait to see what will culminate. But then again, we see how best she's going to address the issues of the city as at now where she sits as deputy governor. But away from it, we also have the quote of the day. And what is this one word, or what is this one statement that you need to carry that will guide you throughout the day? Let's take a look.
Quote of the day: you're off to great places. Today is your day. Your mountain is waiting, so get on your way. Quote of the day: you're off to great places. Today is your day. Your mountain is waiting, so get on your way.
Yes, that's the quote of the day. And now we cross over, or we move to what it is that played out in history in such a day.
On this date, in the year 2020, a helicopter carrying former pro basketball player Kobe Bryant, his 13-year-old daughter Gianna, and 7 others crashed in Calabasas, California, roughly 30 miles north of Los Angeles. Everyone on board died. Bryant's death sent shockwaves through the American sporting world.
Well, time really runs fast. Just the other day, we were looking at that and how the world was really sad because of that scenario. We keep saying that the souls should continue resting in eternal peace. What is happening on the roads briefly this early morning? Sometimes nowadays, I've noticed that Tuesdays are a bit heavy as compared to Mondays. And here we are, right from the word go, just having a sneak preview of what is there on the roads. We can pinpoint the red bits. This is Jogoo Road. We can pinpoint somewhere around South B. This is Mombasa Road. And we can also tell that Muthaiga, there's a bit of traffic. Moi Airbase, that is Juja Road, there's a bit of traffic. And Kangundo Road, there's also some bit of traffic at some point in time. Some bit of traffic around Gong Road. And so let's get just to like zoom in and out to these particular areas, and we get to know what, should be a cause for alarm or where you need to avoid in the scenario that you are capable of doing that. So here we are, and Jogoo Road this morning is not so good, neither is it so bad. There's a bit of snarl up, but it is moving as you're headed to town. And so that means if you're taking Jogoo Road, you need to know that, well, if you delay for another second, you might not like it. So if you are stepping out, kindly step out as early as now. As you can see, there's some bit of snarl up somewhere around Jogoo Road there. And so that is need to worry. As we go down, let's go back a bit and see what is on these sides of Outer Ring Road. Outer Ring Road, this is Manyanja actually, but this is Outer Ring Road. Let's see how bad or how good Outer Ring Road is from this point of also. This is this side of let's see. Yes, this is where it comes and connects to Thika Road. So let's overlook Allsops and go down to Outer Ring, see whether there's some bit of traffic. Outer Ring is not so bad this morning, apart from some bit tenets of traffic that are pretty much moving. And so going down, when you get to this point around there, Tasia is when you get some bit of traffic. But then it's not badly off. It is moving, and then again some bit of it also as you are headed to these sides of Embakasi and to Airport Road. And when you get to connect yourself to Airport Road, evidently you can see that it's not so bad. This is getting you to Eastern Bypass, and well, this is the Eastern Bypass, somewhere around Astral Petrol Station, Utawala is where you can get some bit of traffic, but it is moving. And going down where you come and connect to these other roads, Airport Road, you can see that there's some bit of traffic somewhere around here, but it is also not as heavy as one would probably expect. Going down to Roy Julia's, this side of Embakasi, as you come down to get to connect to Mombasa Road, it tells you that Mombasa Road is bad around these sides of Imara Daima from Cabanas, and actually from all the way down from this is bad. Mombasa Road is not looking good this morning. As you can see, this is somewhere around Gateway Mall, and so as you're headed to the CBD, you realize that there's actually so much traffic around Mombasa Road, somewhere around there. As you come and connect to around Samia Business Park, it is jammed up this morning. Imara Daima going all the way, and it tells you that you need to step out as early as now because it's not looking so good on Mombasa Road. It comes and eases up somewhere around Imara Daima, and then moving on to these other sides, it eases up all the way to Capital Center, when again you start experiencing the snarl up as you headed to the city, and the snarl up goes on all the way to this point where you get to connect to Langata and Lusaka. That should be roundabout, Nyayo Stadium roundabout, and then the traffic eases from there. And then moving into the city, it is not badly off this morning. So that means Mombasa Road doesn't look so pretty. So if you're taking that direction, you know what it is to expect. Bringing us to Thika Road, and Thika Road, as always, you will find some tenets of traffic. Let's go down all the way to this other bit and see where it starts or where it is. Thika Road coming to connect to somewhere around Githurai. That is all the way as you get to Githurai. Somewhere here, there's a bit of traffic around Githurai, but it is moving. I can almost guess it's because, well, most of the matatus are carrying passengers at this point. And so going down to around Clayworks there, you realize there's some bit of traffic here, but it is equally not as heavy, and it is moving. And going down, again, you get some bit of traffic somewhere down there as you still continue, and then it eases up a bit to this point of driving around here, some bit of traffic also, and moving on to Kenya Utalii College, somewhere around Utalii College, that is around Muthaiga, going all the way down. Also you experience a bit of heavy traffic as you know, cars are coming from different directions trying to head to the city, coming down to Pangani shopping center, and then it eases up. And so that means if you're taking that direction, you know what to expect. Coming all the way to Globe roundabout, it's pretty much of an ease as you get yourself into the city, and that is on a Thika Road. So that means you need to be a bit cautious when you're taking that direction. What other direction is alarming this morning? This is Ngong Road. I'm surprised at how Ngong Road is normally good this morning. It's not always as bad as you'd probably expect. Not the usual look of Ngong Road. So you can evidently tell that Ngong Road is good. So aside from going to that side of the city, let's go down to the Southern Bypass. And the Southern Bypass is pretty much of an ease this morning. So if you're taking the Southern Bypass, you know very well that you're able to beat this, and you get yourself to the different destinations that you're taking yourself to. Lusaka is not bad, and these are the sides that is Kenyatta Avenue. And so in the event that there's something that we'd probably need to let you know about, we'll be here. This is Waiyaki Way, and Waiyaki Way is a bit of traffic, but it is evidently moving, so there's no cause for alarm this morning. In the event of anything, kindly also update us so that at least we can get to adapt ourselves. That is on the hashtag Morning Cafe at Linda_Lela at TV47KE. Tell us what is happening on the roads, and we'll certainly get to sample that for the sake of helping each other. Let's briefly take a look at the news stories of the day. And the government is planning to impose about 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. curfew in security-prone Kapedo area, as of course the ongoing security operations in the region at the border of Turkana are, getting tighter and tighter. Let's take a look at that. It's not been so easy at the level of the Kapedo, but the CS for Interior maintains that there's going to be police and security agencies that have already actually been deployed and will be deployed some more to ensure that they tame the bandits.
Residents of the restive Kapedo area at the border of Turkana and Baringo counties will not be allowed to leave their houses between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. daily in the new security measures intended by Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i regarding the week-long security operation in Kapedo. Matiang'i, who is also set to gazette Kapedo a disturbed area, further revealed that security agencies will not step out of Kapedo unless every bandit gun is silenced and calm restored.
We have decided as government, we are not going to postpone that problem again. We will sort it out once and for all. And I've made it very clear when the leaders of that region came to see me last week, I told them that we will sustain the operation in that area until we get all the criminals out. We are going to disarm the people who are there. It is a responsibility of government to behave that way.
Matiang'i has, however, refuted claims of a deepening humanitarian crisis in Kapedo as schools, businesses and hospitals remain shut.
I am not aware of any humanitarian crisis in that part of our country. We have maintained all our security teams on the ground. Those are our citizens.
This comes amid reports that at least 10 people have been killed since security officers stepped foot in Kapedo to flush out bandits terrorizing residents in Turkana and Baringo counties. According to humanitarian agency Red Cross, at least 2,500 homesteads in Kapedo have been affected, 30 houses completely destroyed, and 12 people evacuated from Kapedo for medical purposes.
Most of them we've evacuated to Nakuru for further treatment. We had 2 that were treated on site in Kapedo, and after that we've not been able to treat anyone on site after that. So what we've been doing is evacuation to Nakuru for treatment.
Meanwhile, we're responding to a citizen alarmed by the vicious cycle of attacks in Kapedo. Through the Engage the IG hashtag on Twitter, Inspector General of Police Hilary Mutyambai reiterated that the Kapedo security operation will go on to restore peace and tranquility in the area without victimization, favor or fear. This follows claims that some leaders in the region have a soft spot for the banditry attacks.
It manifests itself as a cat rustling problem, but clearly it's a criminal activity that is supported by some groups of people in that region.
Communication has been cut off in Kapedo for the last 2 days by security agencies to thwart communication between bandits at a time when a roadblock has also been mounted in Chepilat area to bar anyone, including journalists, from accessing Kapedo. David Muthoka, TV47.
Now, hundreds of flamingos in Lake Bogoria have choked to death after they were trapped by thorns from plant that has been identified as Mathenge plant. Experts say the problem stems from the increasing water levels in the lake that has seen the water rise and spill over to areas that have been ravaged by the Mathenge plant. Sharon Baranga with the details.
Lake Bogoria is known for its saline waters, hot springs, and the flamingos. The 3 make a package which attracts tourists to this place. But the life of the lake is being choked. Hundreds of flamingos are dying after their flights were interrupted abruptly by a thorny plant known to many as Mathenge. A number of them have been trapped while trying to either land or take off from the shores of the lake. They then resign to their fate after struggling to disentangle from the sharp thorns of the Mathenge. The lake is now littered with images of carcasses of flamingos hanging from the Mathenge.
We've been doing a lot of clearance for the flamingo lookout and flamingo landing points because they require an open place for landing and flamingo lookout. But we've done so many clearance. But because of this increase of water level every now and then, it's becoming a challenge, which is something new. It's a new phenomenon. We've never experienced such.
The other flamingos continue to take off and land, oblivious of the danger staring at them. Experts say the problem stems from the increasing water levels that have seen the water rise and spill over to areas that have been ravaged by the Mathenge plant.
They say the inflow of the river Loboi is actually entering the lake at the northern part where the school compound is. So we have a lot of flamingos which has been trapped by the fence. Normally this is actually because the lake has gone beyond.
Current estimates from the latest water bird count in Lake Bogoria projects flamingos at 800,000, meaning the lake hosts almost half of the world's 3.5 million flamingos. Water volume in lakes Bogoria, Baringo and Nakuru has increased in the recent months. The swelling is threatening lives that are dependent on the lakes. Sharon Baranga, TV 47.
Beautiful piece there, but again a sad occurrence. And away from it, the government has insisted that teachers will not be intimidated by learners amid incidences of riots and unrest in schools. This is the Directorate of Criminal Investigations issued a warning to students who will be involved in the vices, as Muthoni Minor now reports.
The Directorate of Criminal Investigations, DCI, has warned students against committing any crime, as this will be a permanent criminal mark that will bar many students from achieving their goals. The warning by DCI coming amid cases of riots and unrest in schools. The crimes, according to DCI, include armed and unpeaceful demos, arson, drugs, cyberbullying, assault of any degree, drunkenness, or any other reported crime. Education CS George Magoha says such cases will not be allowed in schools.
We shall not be intimidated. We cannot be intimidated. Because even in our houses, you don't allow your child to decide which bed you are going to sleep in. What nonsense is this? It is the parents that are failing here. And let us be very candid as far as we are concerned. Let us stop treating children like eggs.
At least 4 schools were razed down in various parts of the country in the last 1 week.
And any person who feels that just because he or she is a child and is going to assault a teacher, we shall come to you like a ton of bricks. I can tell you that.
Parents have been urged to a one-on-one conversation with their children for them to not engage in the vices.
Shule mbili sasa, shule ya Chesamis, watoto wameharibu kila kitu. Alafu nasikia kula shule ingine huku sijui ni which one. Kimilili Boys. Sasa hiyo ni discipline na hiyo ni makosa, na nataka niseme kwamba please wazazi ambao mko hapa na wengine ambao labda naweza kanisikiza, afadhali muongee na watoto wetu.
To all the principals of all the high schools that do intensive counseling so that these children remain in school.
In one incident, at least 100 students in Kituro High School are counting losses as one of the dormitories caught fire last night. According to reports, the fire broke out at around 9 p.m. when the students were concluding their night preps.
We have had a case in Timboroa the day before yesterday. Last night, we had a case in Kituro. I have already dispatched my education officials to touch base with my administrators, my DCs, and everybody to go and find out, and the police to go and investigate on what's going on.
Another fire incident was witnessed in Kiambere Secondary School, Mbere South in Embu County yesterday. The fire destroyed property belonging to students in one of the dormitory block before the school principal was alarmed and acted fast.
I was in the office preparing to go to the church to join our students when one of our cooks, Joseph Ngari, stormed in and shouted the dormitory was on fire. We have 3 boys that we suspended on Wednesday. These are day scholars who became defiant. They wanted to leave school earlier than the scheduled time. We suspended them to come with their parents next week, and we shall treat them as our first suspects.
Mavani Minor, TV 47.
All right, on that note, we take a break and we'll be coming back with the papers and more after it.
When the clock strikes 7:30 p.m. every Monday, it means it's time for...
The biggest challenge of starting a business in Kenya is the layers of licenses you need to pay.
The Grind. We tell you the do's and don'ts of business.
But the biggest fear was whether I'm going to make it in business or whether I'll lose my 150,000.
I say business is not about how much capital you have.
The Grind, every Monday at 7:30 p.m. It's been an amazing year in the kitchen here on The Throwdown. We brought you ugali and brown fish by Sophia. The tasty butter chicken from the classic Mayura restaurant. And the sweet Oreo cake dessert by Lillian. This year, we bring you bigger and better from more mouth-watering meals, kitchen hacks, restaurant reviews, and even street foods. Tune in to The Throwdown every Sunday at 6:30 p.m. When the clock strikes 7:30 p.m. every Monday, it means it's time for...
The biggest challenge of starting a business in Kenya is the layers of licenses you need to pay.
The Grind. We tell you the do's and don'ts of business.
But the biggest fear was whether I'm going to make it in business or whether I'll lose my 150,000.
I say business is not about how much capital you have.
The Grind, every Monday at 7:30 p.m. It's been an amazing year in the kitchen here on The Throwdown. We brought you ugali and brown fish by Sophia. The tasty butter chicken from the classic Mayura restaurant. And the sweet Oreo cake dessert by Lillian. This year, we bring you bigger and better from more mouth-watering meals, kitchen hacks, restaurant reviews, and even street foods. Tune in to The Throwdown every Sunday at 6:30 p.m. When the clock strikes 7:30 p.m. every Monday, it means it's time for...
The biggest challenge of starting a business in Kenya is the layers of licenses you need to pay.
The Grind. We tell you the do's and don'ts of business.
But the biggest fear was whether I'm going to make it in business or whether I'll lose my 150,000.
I say business is not about how much capital you have.
The Grind, every Monday at 7:30 p.m. It's been an amazing year in the kitchen here on The Throwdown. We brought you ugali and brown fish by Sophia. The tasty butter chicken from the classic Mayura restaurant. And the sweet Oreo cake dessert by Lillian. This year, we bring you bigger and better from more mouth-watering meals, kitchen hacks, restaurant reviews, and even street foods. Tune in to The Throwdown every Sunday at 6:30 p.m. When the clock strikes 7:30 p.m. every Monday, it means it's time for...
The biggest challenge of starting a business in Kenya is the layers of licenses you need to pay.
The Grind. We tell you the do's and don'ts of business.
But the biggest fear was...
Watching TV47, the home of untold stories.
Welcome back to the broadcast, and we go to the papers. Joining me for the same, Emmanuel Mutisia, that is Professor Emmanuel Mutisia, and we also have the DG of Kajiado, that is the Deputy Governor, Martin Moshisho. And it's good to have you gentlemen this morning. Should have started by 6:30, but all the same we're here and we're grateful. And one thing we cannot fail to discuss is the politics of the day. So much is happening, at the national spectrum. And times are moving pretty fast. 2022 is just around the corner. And in as much as we tend to say that Kenyans are really not interested in the politics of the day because of the tough times that they're going through, reality is that politics runs the world. Everything that we do, we almost, have gotten to that point where we eat, drink, breathe politics. I don't know, Professor is specialized on what angle, but you can almost tell that even if he's doing education, something totally different, in class you will always find yourself, getting to that point where it is politics that is being discussed. So that is what we'll be looking at this morning. But first things first, like I have said, we have the papers, and here we are. The People Daily, the Standard newspaper, and the Daily Nation. They will speak of the same stories that we'll be looking at this morning. And so Joy as Sunday School Madrasa reopen. I think those ones, that is probably something that most of the people would have expected. But of interest is this that, happened over the weekend, coming to yesterday. And all war as Kibicho now takes on Sonko. Sonko, in as much as sometimes people would say he would just speak without, really meaning what it is that he says, on this one, he knows very well the ramifications that comes along with them. And he speaks of a scenario where they were hugely involved in causing mayhem during an electioneering period, and all this pinning it on the ODM. And so what would this mean? What would this breed at a point where there's so much tension and intolerance on matters politics, Professor?
Well, thank you very much. I think we are in a very special moment today, that we are not able as a country to separate the political economy and the development economy. Yeah. My friend here just pointed out that we start politics immediately after the general elections. And the biggest challenge that we have today is that instead of sort of bringing on board politics of development, we are now in a political moment where every other politician is trying to divide or to create divisions between them and the others, so that they can remain relevant. Now, what we see from the former governor of Nairobi fighting with the PS of the Interior Ministry is not something that we would want to expect, we want to see now. Because then that kind of divisive politics is what Kenya should be running away, so that we can unite the country and move forward to a better level. But then we realize that these politicians believe that to remain relevant by spilling some of these in quote secrets. Some of them are not secrets. We know some of them are just politics. And we're now getting to know what has
well, it could be important for us to know. Do you think it's coming a little bit too late, or it's never late to get justice?
Well, in politics, it's never late. It's purely about publicity and perception.
Right.
But then it is not becoming now. If these politicians were honest, they should have given us all these stories right in the beginning. But then they were part of it. They used that against NASA and the ODM to make sure that they won the elections.
Right.
Not because they're not part of the government or the government is split. They are now trying to give us these stories so that they can now drive the two narratives that we have today of the Asla nation and the BBI. And this is not something that we want to talk about.
All right, DG.
As a nation.
Sorry to cut you short. DG, Sonko speaks of this. Very important if at all we have to get justice. Very important if at all we have to root out these heinous acts that normally play out during electioneering period. Very important if at all we have to go back and understand the credibility of the elections that we had, and then we make the best of what we're going to have next come 2021. If at all we're going to have an election, well, we're headed for a referendum. If at all we're going to have one, a lot can really change. When you look at him speaking about this, well, we understand that he's speaking on bitter grounds, but he understands just how this would bedevil him and many other people. Do you suppose he could be coining narratives for the sake of doing it, for Kibicho to come out and counter the same?
To me, the remarks by Sonko is too unfortunate.
Okay.
And I think as leaders, we need to be very responsible of our utterances and our remarks.
Not our actions, because if his remarks are genuine.
Because I ask myself, is Sonko able to substantiate himself? And I like the actions of PS Kibicho, just walking to the DCI and record statements. And I would advise our leaders that we should avoid speaking out of hunger. Why at this point? Why do you speak against another group if things are not working for you? I think such remarks will further divide this country, can be a recipe to chaos,
Right.
And I think we just need to sober up as leaders and be able to provide leadership for our country. Otherwise, such remarks I really condemn.
All right, when we speak about that, ODM has already reacted to the same, and they say, well, investigations should be conducted. One then would argue that in as much as this is unfortunate, it is only fair that these investigations are conducted?
Right. You see, as my colleague here just put it, I think this is coming at a very wrong time. Because I don't think that the utterances, the person who is uttering these words has any moral standing to come out at this moment. We know why they're doing it, and I believe that the DCI should do their work in making sure that some of these people are not allowed to come in close to the public. So, I mean, they're not allowed to sort of have this opportunity of making such utterances. They know why they're doing it. But as I said, I mean, unfortunately, we are dividing the populace of this country because of our personal interests. It is not because they have interest of this country. They are just here because, you are impeached, you're not the governor of Nairobi, but now at this point in time, you want to tell people why all this happened to you. But then the government is doing a very good job. You see, we saw the other day the Wiper party leader, Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka, walking over to DCI to sort of report and also sort of present himself.
That was a good move.
It is a good move because we want everybody who wants to stand for a political office to go out there and clear themselves. We have names going around of people who have done all these things that are not in line with the Constitution.
But in the same argument, many have said we all know what it is that pushes Kalonzo Musyoka to do that. We all know what it is that pushes Charity Ngilu to react, in favor of Kalonzo. We all know what it is that has pushed, other individuals to go out there and say the DP is bad. And so it is evidently the hustler and, the dynasty narrative that is at play. Just how then do we save ourselves from that, because reality is that there needs to be, a shift. There needs to be that paradigm, aspect of shift that, will bring change for the country. Do you suppose then, if we are to go by these narratives, we have anything to be expectant of?
I honestly support the actions of former Vice President Kalonzo Musyoka. Even before, we have been accusing one another of corruption, and the response from now those we accuse them of corruption say, why don't you just go to the DCI?
Correct.
So I think the former Vice President has shown by action, by just walking to the DCI, go explain himself, record statements, exonerate himself from the allegations, and clear his name that he holds a legal land. I think that is the way to go. Instead of just relying on hearsay and confirm statements, go to the agencies that have been given the mandate to investigate whether that is illegal or not illegal. That was really good.
Okay, well, we follow up on these stories later on to give you reactions on the same. And the people of Kapedo would probably think otherwise. It has been tough on this particular region for the longest of time. Many of them wish to know who could be the people who are fueling this, castigating this, or pushing for this. And most of the times they blame it on the politicians, but equally the political analysts that I've had on board, or the specialists that I've had on board, have argued for the longest of time that maybe for us to get a solution at the level of Kapedo, we might need to have local solutions to this. And here we are, we're standing at a point where it is being looked at as a death trap for security officers, honestly. Like, the people who are supposed to protect these individuals down at Kapedo are the very same reason who are scared, the very same people who are scared of just how safe they are down there, because evidently the security officers are not facing it good. What will be done, or what needs to be done for us to realize peace in this region?
I think I would say that this is very embarrassing.
Yeah.
Today, we should not be talking about the Kapedo sort of insecurity sort of issue. We know, of course, part of it is political, but also part of it are local issues or local cultural customs or traditions that have been there for the longest time possible. I think, one, we need to look for local solutions, and you put it very well. Local solutions to our local problems. The issues facing the insecurities out there can only be resolved by the elders, by the residents, by the leaders from that area. Because again, just like the national politics that we see today, you realize that there are also divisions at that level, where us leaders are coming in sort of to create divisions or animosities between them, the residents, and the rest. And that is why you see our security men are going out down there with their guns to sort of provide security, but then they end up being insecure with their guns or arms snatched by the bandits or the locals that are sort of running the show around that area. So for me, leaders, the local residents, and everyone else within that area should come together, understand the core cause of the problems that the community faces, and agree on how to move forward as a community. We should not impose sort of solutions from outside. If I come from Kajiado, I should not just walk in and say that, no, we know the problems of Kapedo. We should ask the people why this is happening. We should understand why it is happening, and we should let them propose solutions, and then we sort of together implement those solutions.
Indeed, and it's a problem that has been recurring every other time. The other time you're here, DG, we were talking about the insecurity that has been witnessed, at these borders of Kiambu and Kajiado County. One, I would want for you to confirm whether this has been addressed, and if it has been addressed, do you think it's a long-term solution? If it is a long-term solution, do you suppose there is anything to borrow that can be, copy-pasted to the Kapedo region for us to get answers?
Yes, Linda, our problem has been solved and solved very well. And this is because of the cooperation between the concerned leaders. Leaders from Kajiado County and leaders from the other counties, Kiambu, Nakuru, and other bordering counties. the willingness and the good faith and goodwill of the leaders to say, we are not part of this, and we discourage it and we condemn it. In any evil action, the perpetrators should be brought on book, and there is no cover-up.
Are we talking about political leaders, or we are talking about the local leaders?
Political leaders with the local leaders.
Okay.
They should be part of the solution. And if there is that genuinity to solve the problem, a solution has to be found.
Yeah.
And compared to the Kapedo situation, it is a bad situation. It is a desperate one. Locals losing life, their hearts being stolen, and even the security people sent there are killed. Over 64 police officers has been killed so far in that area. That's a desperate situation. And I think I like the sentiments of Honorable Matiang'i just last evening, that the government has procrastinated the fight against this for too long. I think the government should make sure that this should never happen again. But something to notice is the problem is within the local.
Yes.
The local leaders, and they should be part of the solution. If the cattle rustling is a business for somebody, let the government bring it to a stop.
Okay.
What is this that we fight over politically? Those are the people that we want to lead, and we want to destabilize them?
Definitely not.
For no reason. I think the government, because it is the government that can be able to protect all of us, you can hear those people in Kapedo asking, are we part of Kenya? Those are desperate sentiments.
So far. Yeah.
And they should also feel protected by their country. Yeah.
All right, well, and as we have seen, indeed, a tough talking CS, we can only hope that this will be addressed. It might be at all, but what's important is for us to get these, to be quelled. Certainly. And we follow up on that later on. But away from it, some more of politics. Mount Kenya owes me political debt. Right, Honorable Raila Odinga now has officially come out, probably just confirming to the world that he's going to be out there on the ballot. Otherwise, then one would want to ask, what is this debt that is being paid, and what is this one thing that he really wants paid? So from 2002, Kibaki Tosha declaration, back to his father's independence, support for Jomo, ODM leader Raila says it's time the region gets to return the favor as he pitches for Building Bridges initiative, as well as his 2022 State House contest. Just the other day, they also sent that openness of people to go out and apply in the event that they would want to go for presidency with the ODM ticket. Do you think really, having been long enough, the Mount Kenya region owes Right Honorable Raila Odinga something?
Well,
do not forget that they say kumi yangu
I think these are very interesting sentiments.
Yes.
I don't, on the one side, I don't think there are any political debts in politics.
Yes.
Because politics is just a sort of a game. You play around with the perceptions of the state and the psychology of others. So on the one side, I would say, well, you don't leave debts out there for you to be repaid later,
yes,
politically. But on the other side, when you get into sort of partnerships, there are commitments that are made within. And if you tell me that, you give me 10, I give you 10, and we are in that union, then of course I take that one as a commitment.
Yeah.
And if you don't sort of honor your commitment, certainly I would call it a debt.
Yeah.
But then again, the political landscape in this country is very exciting. Kenya is one of the most political countries in the continent, and of course globally. And we cannot live without politics. I would say that everything that is happening now is because of the two narratives that we have. On the one side, we have the hustler narrative. On the other side,
we have the
with the BBI sort of narrative.
Yes.
The BBI, to me, is a very exciting process for two reasons. One, in 2010, when the constitution was promulgated, there was a condition or a footnote that it will be reviewed and revised after 10 years.
Yes.
And it's 10 years. So looking at it and reviewing and revising it, to meet the current times, because life is dynamic, then to me that is very important.
We've not even met the previous...
yeah, that's the thing. But it's 10 years since 2010. So within the constitutional framework, that is okay. But my problem is not the changes that we have in the constitution. The proposals that are there are very good. I have no questions about that, minus the sort of the perception that we are doing it because we want to reward some people with some positions. But then the question is, how sure are we that if we sort of bring in these changes, the government that is going to come in place will implement.
Hold it right there, Professor. Yes, the implementation aspect is what it is that we question today. I am told that we need to take a quick break and then we come back on that very note.
When the clock strikes 7:30 p.m. every Monday, it means it's time for...
The biggest challenge of starting a business in Kenya is the layers of licenses you need to pay.
The Grind. We tell you the do's and don'ts of business.
But the biggest fear was whether I'm going to make it in business or whether I'll lose my 150,000.
I say business is not about how much capital you have.
The Grind, every Monday at 7:30 p.m. It's been an amazing year in the kitchen here on The Throwdown. We brought you ugali and brown fish by Sophia. The tasty butter chicken from the classic Mayura restaurant. And the sweet Oreo cake dessert by Lillian. This year, we bring you bigger and better from more mouth-watering meals, kitchen hacks, restaurant reviews, and even street foods. Tune in to The Throwdown every Sunday at 6:30 p.m. When the clock strikes 7:30 p.m. every Monday, it means it's time for...
The biggest challenge of starting a business in Kenya is the layers of licenses you need to pay.
The Grind. We tell you the do's and don'ts of business.
But the biggest fear was whether I'm going to make it in business or whether I'll lose my 150,000.
I say business is not about how much capital you have.
The Grind, every Monday at 7:30 p.m. It's been an amazing year in the kitchen here on The Throwdown. We brought you ugali and brown fish by Sophia. The tasty butter chicken from the classic Mayura restaurant. And the sweet Oreo cake dessert by Lillian. This year, we bring you bigger and better from more mouth-watering meals.
Welcome back. Remember, we have so much lined up for you, still going all the way to 9 a.m. Later on, we'll be having the Baraza. It's going to be a heated debate as we look at the involvement of youth on matters BBI and politics at large. But as of now, we still have Honorable Martin Mushisho, who's the Deputy Governor, that is Kajiado County. And with me also is Professor Emmanuel Mutisia, as we ponder some more on matters politics right here in the country and technically what has been captured on the papers. And so we continue with that. Remember, we welcome your feedback. Hashtag Morning Cafe at Linda_Lela, TV47KU. Very many of you are watching, and we are grateful that we also get these responses. So keep it right here. And yes, Professor, I cut you short before we go to the DJ.
No, I was just questioning
the implementation bit.
The relevance of the processes that we have on board, on the table at the moment. Why? Because, as I said, we have one of the most progressive constitutions on the planet.
Yeah.
And if we as a nation were serious and implemented the constitution to the core, some of the things that we're seeing today, some of the politics and crimes and presentations to the DCI will not be happening today. Why? Because we would have conformed to chapter 6 of the Constitution that if you are convicted of a crime on this land, then you will not be able to run for office, public office, or any other office. Now, because we have not gotten to that level, we have politicized everything since 2010, then we are where we are today. And that is why, of course, it is important to really look at the Constitution and see what components could be reviewed with the hope that the government of the day is going to ensure that everything that is sort of proposed and the overall constitution is implemented for the betterment of the lives of our people.
Okay.
Now, as I said, that is the side of the process.
Yeah.
And on the one side, I do not want to see it coming out as a divisive process where there is us versus them.
Okay.
There is the president and the right honorable prime minister, and then on the other side there's a DP, and then the Hustler Nation.
Well, unfortunately, it's what we have right now.
It would have been better if we brought all these people on board, because at the very end they will have one president, and if the constitution is revised and these other executive positions are brought on board, then we're going to have one prime minister, deputy prime minister, and so on and so forth.
Okay.
But then on the other side, I am a bit worried with the way the Hustler narrative is being driven. For me, I would have looked at it from the perspective of creating jobs for the youth. The highest number of people who are suffering in this country are the young men and women.
Yes.
Now, why this is happening is because the government promised us in 2013 that they will create jobs, a million jobs every year for the youth.
Yeah.
If that happened, today we would not be out talking about the millions of jobless youth that we have in this country. And we will not be talking about the wheelbarrow economics and the hustler economics. Because when you tell me that I should go to the university, study, and then come out and go there and buy a wheelbarrow, then you are telling us to go back to the 18th century. I think that is not what we should be talking about.
Okay, that's an interesting one that many have questioned, but then again, they have their own ways of countering all these dissenting voices. But away from it, we back on this one. Mount Kenya owes me political debt. You are getting yourself you are actually into the game of politics, and I'll tell you for free, most of at least from what we have seen, the few who managed to go there will not always want to go back to a different direction. If you by default you find your way out in the cold for 5 years, the next other 5 years you struggle so hard to find yourself back into the game of politics, and it will get to a point where you'll feel like, now me sitting down with my governor, we had an agreement that this and this and this, and so he's supposed to front me to the gubernatorial position and all that. So it's going to be a tricky one. When you look at Right Honorable Raila Odinga, speaking of this, a seasoned politician, one of the people we celebrate in the country when it comes to matters politics. What does it make you feel as one politician who's just trying to come up?
Well, Linda is a young leader in this country. I don't really bite with the Denny thing.
Okay.
I don't really like that.
Is it just because it's not on your end right now? Sometimes really it happens without you really knowing that it is happening.
Not really that, but anyway, I don't like it. But I want to really support Honorable Raila Odinga. That what he has shown in the previous years of supporting candidates from other regions,
yes,
I think is the way to go in this country. The future of this country is to have one united nation. One united nation that, regardless of the region you come from, you are accepted as a president.
Yes.
And every region will support you. I think it is not good that we train our nation and bring up a generation that knows that every region has to come up with a candidate. I think it should not be that. Even if we have two candidates who are coming from the same region, and as a country we feel that those candidates can be able to make very good presidents, and have them compete.
Okay.
It is not about a region. It is about one country, one nation. And I would like, our politics to go beyond region, to go beyond region. These regions. That if we have a young person from the Nyanza region who has got a very good vision for our country, our brothers from the Rift Valley, where I come from, will say we support.
What will it take for us to attain that? We still have the troubles of tribe deep-rooted within ourselves. We still have a lot of resentment when we're talking about a person who does not resonate with your, kind of party, does not resonate with your policies or ideologies, does not, they do not come from the same region that you come from. So really, tribe is one thing that is a problem. And sad to speak, yesterday we were having a conversation, is that most of us tend to run away from this conversation. We tend to bury ourselves in our heads in the sand, and we say, well, let's not discuss that because it's going to cause division. While in real sense, it's a problem that does exist.
Well, I think one major role should be played by our role models, the national leaders that we look up unto. They should lead by example. And I like the conversation that is going on right now. The president said there is no problem if we support other communities to be presidents. It gives hope even to the small groups in Kenya that this is their country. It is not about the numbers. It is about the vision. And the rest of the citizens of Kenya can accept your vision. Not because you come from a Maasai community, you're coming from a Mijikenda community, you're coming from, a small tribe, but because of the visions that you have for this country.
Well, Professor, allow me to ask Professor this. The president said that, and something that was really castigated by many. Actually, at this time round, I would say not many people I know received this with so much joy and elation, in as much as there's some level of truth in it. Was it the bearer of the message, and do you think the bearer himself was honest in saying that it is time? What if I say that it is time for other regions to take up the mantle?
I think that elicited a lot of emotions.
Yes.
And I would say that, and this builds into what the DG he has sort of said, that equal opportunities in this country means that any person from any location or any tribe should be able to ascend to the highest office on the land. Now, because of in quotes, the opportunities that are inherent in the presidency, opportunities of corruption and opportunities of employing your own people from your own tribe or of your own community, we fight for our own person. And that is why when you talk about a regional, we talk about presidency from a regional perspective. We talk about it from a sort of a tribal perspective because we look at the opportunities. I know when DG becomes the president and I am in Kajiado, he will consider me for a CS, cabinet minister position. And Linda here is going to be the CS
for sure.
for God willing. So my point is, to me, what the president said is actually what we should go by.
Right.
I would say that Central and Rift Valley has produced presidency for the longest time possible. It is time for other communities too to be considered to have these positions out there. Why? Because it will tell the next generation that it is possible.
Yes.
It doesn't matter where you are born or where you come from or your last name. It is possible for you to be the president of the Republic of Kenya. But now, at this moment, I'll tell you that we know, those of our generation know that it is either you are from Central or you are from the Rift Valley. Even today, the narrative that we have on the table is that if the deputy president runs for presidency, his running mate must come from Central. Or if the Right Honourable Prime Minister goes for the top seat, then the second person must be from Central. Why? Because you're looking at it from numbers and economic power, not from the perspective of equality and the creation of an ecosystem that it is possible for every other Kenyan to take any position in this country. And this is the narrative that I think we should move forward, especially for us who are younger at heart and also
generally that is the side. Today we're discussing BBI and politics and generally the involvement of youths in politics, and the question is just who are the youths? Normally they'd say it's they're up to that level of 35, but then again sadly our youths are around 40, 50 there. President Uhuru Kenyatta himself is a youth from what we say, and they say he's too young to retire, so you're really young at heart and definitely. All right, DJ, as we close on this one, the BBI, which Professor brought on board extensively, is one thing that has been looked at as something that is going to bring blessings to the level of the counties. You sit in the county today. You know the frustrations that are there. You can evidently project what it is that devolution has brought and what you think devolution should be done for us to make it even better for ourselves, because we say we're not dropping devolution away because it's something that has been good for us. BBI is the way for that?
Yes.
Why do you say yes?
You have seen us sometimes back.
Yes.
Walking in the streets.
Right.
No, the Council of Governors, deputy governors.
Yes.
Walking in the streets of Nairobi, asking the country to release funds to the counties, and fighting over the 15%.
Right.
We were asking courts and the interpretation, the fights.
Yes.
And we say, even as Council of Governors and Deputy Governors, that we want to start a conversation on how we can devolve more money to the counties because of the great work devolution is doing to our country. And after that pull and push, here comes the BBA conversation with the proposals to change the constitution. We said yes, and now we are being promised that we pass BBI, we will have 35% going to the counties. This is a good deal. As counties, we really support. A county like Kajiado that receives between 6 to 9 billion every financial year will receive to a tune of 20 billion. You can imagine the great work that that money is going to do in our county. We totally support it. And honestly, I think every Kenyan needs to support the BBI proposal. There is no negation of the tremendous progress that we have made in the 2010 Constitution. I think what it has done, it has just improved the gains that we have already made in the 2010 Constitution. And therefore, every Kenyan needs to support. But from counties, yes, with the 35% devolution of funds, we support it.
And you think it's not going to be a struggle for you to come back, of course, to the courts to say, oh, we've not even gotten this, we've not gotten this. As it is right now, 15 is not getting to the counties. They always say that. But, specialists have great views of viewing this. What's important is that you go out there and read the documents. So when even, it gets to a point where you question based on facts and figures as presented within the document and, in comparison to the already existing document. As we head towards the last minutes of the program, this we cannot fail to discuss. Where is it? Forget about Nairobi. Well, it's on the other papers. Let's just see. And that is on the budget and the debt ceilings and what it is that the country witnesses today. This has been captured on the front page of the Daily Nation extensively, and also some bit of it is captured on the Standard newspaper inside Uhuru's record, the 3 trillion budget. We might not even delve deep into understanding what it is that this budget speaks of, but I'd love for us to briefly speak about the economic state of the nation at a time when, yes, the global fraternity is reeling hard, out of the problems that come from COVID-19. But equally as a nation, in as much as we want to compare, we want to say it's the global fraternity, it is always good that we have our very own ways and solutions to the problems that bedevil us. You've spoken about the economic framework. Do you suppose, well, definitely, as many would argue, we are not probably in the right trajectory. But as our leaders would say, it looks ugly, but it is something that we can manage. Something that we can manage, really?
Well, you see, when I look at Kenya, I look at Kenya in reference with other countries.
Mm-hmm.
I live in Japan. I teach at the University of Tokyo.
Yeah.
And when I look at what happens in Japan, and then I look at the politics of development in this country and the politics of the figures that we talk about, the debt ceiling.
You know, the president quoted or maybe highlighted how Japan does it in terms of getting the debts and sustaining the country the other day. Are we as good as them?
No, the biggest problem in our country is not the debt ceilings or the budgets that are set every year.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest problem is the way we utilize our resources. We do not get value for money for the money or for the budgets that are set aside by the government. And this is purely, one reason is bad governance by the people who handle resources, but also corruption. Because most of the monies that the government chucks out from the treasury goes to the pockets of people, and then it is not put into the development.
Mm-hmm.
Japanese debt is 200% of its GDP. Kenyan debt is not even at 100%. Of GDP.
Mm-hmm.
So if I was to compare the two countries, I would say that no, Kenya is very okay. Right. And compared to many other countries, we are very okay. The problem is, when you do business, when you go to a bank, you borrow money to go do business, to make returns and repay that debt. Now, when we borrow, we should put that money into productive sectors that are going to ensure that we get high-level returns. And of course, have the capacity to repay those loans.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the government, from my own perspective, is that money that is not stolen has been put into very good use. You drive around, you see the infrastructure, and this is happening in every part of this country. That we see tarmac roads all over. This is what we expect the government to be doing. We see electricity getting to household level. This is what enables us, the private sector, to support the productive sectors in sort of ensuring that business moves to a better level. And I would say that Kenya is very special. Although COVID-19 has created all these disturbances and disruptions, it is the local markets or the local economies that are going to support the population. We do not now expect much from Japan, China, US, UK, because they have been hit seriously, and the grants that we get from them are not going to sort of be at the same level moving forward. So it is us to ensure that we create an environment that is going to grow our economy and ensure that our industries grow, we create jobs, and the economy grows. Without that, then we'll not be talking about the things. If we can do that, we should not be worried about the amounts of money that the government is putting in infrastructure development. Now, the boring part of it should ensure that we create that good ecosystem that attracts investors to this country. That even with the politics that we have today, I mean, the private sector would be able to stand firm and ensure that the economy moves forward.
Okay.
If we were not disconnected, if there was no disconnection between the politics and the private sector development, this country would have gone to the woods long time ago.
Wow.
But we have one of the most progressive, as I said, and mature sort of markets in this country when you look at it from the perspective of African economies.
Okay, well, all right. And as we cross over, we cross fingers for the best as time goes by. That's a very, extensive view of things, and informative for that matter. The county has its share. In as much as we said we're not going to talk about this, the counties have their share. And now that you're standing here, you stand as the face of the counties. So as we close this one, in terms of how we are in the state of the economy, how instrumental will the counties be, or are they likely to be in the near future in terms of, generating revenue and also boosting the activities of the county in terms of, us getting money that is going to help us boost realized development, knowing very well that also at the level of the counties, corruption is one thing that is a problem.
Yeah, thank you, Linda. Yes. We are affected as a country, not just as a country, but the globe by the COVID-19. But I must say that we have one resilient country.
Yeah.
Our people, very industrious, work hard, but the problem still remains corruption. As a country, we need to decisively deal with corruption. If it were not for corruption, there is no stronger country than Kenya.
Oh, yeah.
So, and I like the openness of our president. It is good to discover for you to recover.
Yeah.
And I think what is ailing us, corruption,
has been discovered.
Let's deal with it from the national level to the county level.
Right.
Yeah. And we put our resources to proper utilization. I appreciate the borrowing, and I think it has been able to do great projects in our country. Look at the SGR. Look at the great tarmac roads we see around. There is a lot of traffic at Mombasa Road because of the bypass. The expressway. The expressway. Tremendous projects.
Okay.
But again, coming down to the offices, to the handlers of this money, we are not able to, put it into a proper use and be able to repay the loans that we borrow. Yeah, the returns are going to the people's pockets, and we are not able to pay back to the owners.
Yes.
But we have the ability, we have the capacity. Our people are energetic enough. They are industrious. They are innovative. They work hard. Kenyans. We need to relook into the issue of corruption.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. Professor Emmanuel Mutisia and the Deputy Governor, Kajiado County, Honorable Martin Mushishu. It was good having you this morning. I wish we'd had more time, but then again, we have to go to a different segment altogether. The Baraza is on standby in a different studio. It will be a show like no other. Keep it right here. Keep sharing, keep tweeting, keep responding, and sending in your comments as we get to engage the youths. And we know just how prepared they are, first of all, to push the BBI agenda or to go against the BBI agenda. All this in a quest to make the country or the nation better for the youths after this break.
When the clock strikes 7:30 p.m. every Monday, it means it's time for...
The biggest challenge of starting a business in Kenya is the layers of licenses you need to pay.
The Grind. We tell you the do's and don'ts of business.
But the biggest fear was whether I'm going to make it in business or whether I'll lose my 150,000.
I say business is not about how much capital you have.
The Grind, every Monday at 7:30 p.m. It's been an amazing year in the kitchen here on The Throwdown. We brought you ugali and brown fish by Sophia. The tasty butter chicken from the classic Mayura restaurant and the sweet Oreo cake dessert by Lillian. This year, we bring you bigger and better from more mouth-watering meals, kitchen hacks, restaurant reviews, and even street foods. Tune in to The Throwdown every Sunday at 6:30 p.m. When the clock strikes 7:30 p.m. every Monday, it means it's time for
The biggest challenge of starting a business in Kenya is the layers of licenses you need to pay.
The Grind. We tell you the do's and don'ts of business.
But the biggest fear was whether I'm going to make it in business or whether I'll lose my 150,000.
I say business is not about how much capital you have.
The Grind, every Monday at 7:30 p.m. It's been an amazing year in the kitchen here on The Throwdown. We brought you ugali and brown fish by Sophia. The tasty butter chicken from the classic Mayura restaurant and the sweet Oreo cake dessert by Lillian. This year, we bring you bigger and better from more mouth-watering meals, kitchen hacks, restaurant reviews, and even street foods. Tune in to The Throwdown every Sunday at 6:30 p.m. When the clock strikes 7:30 p.m. every Monday, it means it's time for
The biggest challenge of starting a business in Kenya is the layers of licenses you need to pay.
The Grind. We tell you the do's and don'ts of business.
But the biggest fear was whether I'm going to make it in business or whether I'll lose my 150,000.
I say business is not about how much capital you have.
The Grind, every Monday at 7:30 p.m. It's been an amazing year in the kitchen here on The Throwdown. We brought you ugali and brown fish by Sophia. The tasty butter chicken from the classic Mayura restaurant and the sweet Oreo cake dessert by Lillian. This year, we bring you bigger and better from more mouth-watering meals, kitchen hacks, restaurant reviews, and even street foods. Tune in to The Throwdown every Sunday at 6:30 p.m. When the clock strikes 7:30 p.m. every Monday, it means it's time for
The biggest challenge of starting a business in Kenya is the layers of licenses you need to pay.
The Grind. We tell you the do's and don'ts of business.
But the biggest fear was whether I'm going to make it in business or whether I'll lose my 150,000.
I say business is not about how much capital you have.
The Grind, every Monday at 7:30 p.m. It's been an amazing year in the kitchen here on The Throwdown. We brought you ugali and brown fish by Sophia. The tasty butter chicken from the classic Mayura restaurant and the sweet Oreo cake dessert by Lillian. This year, we bring you bigger and better from more mouth-watering meals, kitchen hacks, restaurant reviews, and even street foods. Tune in to The Throwdown every Sunday at 6:30 p.m. When the clock strikes 7:30 p.m. every Monday, it means it's time for...
The biggest challenge of starting a business in Kenya is the layers of licenses you need to pay.
The Grind. We tell you the do's and don'ts of business.
But the biggest fear was whether I'm going to make it in business or whether I'll lose my 150,000.
I say business is not about how much capital you have.
The Grind, every Monday at 7:30 p.m. It's been an amazing year in the kitchen here on The Throwdown. We brought you ugali and brown fish by... You are watching TV 47, the home of untold stories.
Well, we are back and different studio altogether, different matters all together as we delve deep into understanding just how involved the youths are on matters of politics. It is instrumental that we are, I am saying that we are because I'm part and parcel of that youth camp, so to speak. Sometimes we tend to say that we really do not know what youths are in our country because, well, as they would speak, it's around there 35, but in most cases it extends all the way to whatever it is that you know. And so that's what we'll be discussing this morning. We delve not much on matters BBI, but the general perspective of how involved we are, and I have able youths right here on board who are instrumental also in trying to shape this narrative and change the whole scenario where youths have always been looked at as people who are on the sideshows, but we now get actively on matters politics. We are the future. We certainly are the people who are going to change the future and actually make it as good as we'd want it to be. That's all as we get to be part and parcel of the conversations that are ongoing at the national perspective, that is on matters politics, and the BBI is the key one that is on ground as of today. We have had some of these individuals on board and I've had a fair share of conversation in regards to matters BBI. We've had a chance to understand what their view on matters BBI is or are, and we'd love to hear whether indeed they have changed or they stick to that. The first time I had one of them, who's Edwin Kigoli, he was really anti-BBI. Before I knew it, he was pro-BBI. And so I'd love to know what is this one thing that got him changing. The other time, or the first time I had a conversation with one of them, who is Dr. Eric Ragalo, he was pro-BBI. But before I knew it, he had changed his tone. So all this is culminating from the conversations that we are having. And so that is what we'll be looking at this morning. So the few of them who feel like the BBI is good enough for the youth or the people at large will be telling us why they think it is so. And the few of them who think otherwise will equally be telling us why they think it is so. And together we come on that particular one ground that will be helpful, because what's important is for us to have this conversation. I don't know whether I'll introduce all of them, but again, I think I will. Edwin Kigoli is right next to me, and then we have Waruguru Kiai, right, who's right next to me. So Edwin Kigoli is a political analyst, technically someone who's so much involved on youth and matters youth policy. It's good to have you this morning. And then we have Waruguru, who's a board director, the Youth Agenda. Good to have you this morning. Kendi Mbaya is right next to Waruguru, who's a political analyst. Good to have you, Kendi. And we have Eric Regalo right there also, ODM Youth and Matters Youth policy expert, or so to speak. And we have Moriah. Good to have you right behind that is Kendi and Eric Regalo. Good to have you, Moriah. Thank you for your time this morning. We also have Nordin Kagai, who's sitting right next to Moriah, and we have Nathaniel. Nathaniel, good to have you. I always call you Nathaniel Agadima. I don't know why you don't like that name. So I'll use what it is that you want us to say. So it's Nathaniel Mungare. Good to have you this morning. And finally, we have Solomon Kuria. Good to have you, also a youth leader. So ladies and gentlemen, it's good to have you this morning. We don't have so much time at our disposal, but then again, with the little that we have, we discuss this issue. And so let's kickstart this conversation from what happened yesterday, that is over the weekend. We have seen how youth have been involved, the latest coming from Mike Sonko in regards to the utterances that he makes on what played out in 2017 politics. We all know that if there are individuals that were instrumentally used to cause chaos during the 2017 elections and the previous elections that we have witnessed, or the electioneering period that we've seen, then of course we have to be talking about the youths in this particular scenario. And so when we speak of the youths being involved, actively being taken around by politicians and people who are moneyed, we sometimes get to that point where we ask ourselves, do we even have youths who are objective enough to probably change this narrative, where we can have a conversation where it is the youths that are driving the day, as opposed to them being driven by what it is that they are given in terms or in form of handouts? Probably start with you, Solomon.
Let me start by saying that, first of all, my good friend, the Deputy President, must stop giving Mike Sonko the microphone to speak to people.
As Moses Kuria said,
Mike Sonko is sick. He needs a psychiatrist. And the best thing the Deputy President can do is probably give him some money to see a doctor. Because you don't say such things about people. And in any case, what Mike Sonko should do, if he is okay, is go to the DCI and record a statement. Tell the DCI that this is what we did, and this was the person, and this is the evidence. Mm-hmm. We must stop this thing of, saying all manner of things carelessly. And Mike Sonko is one of the persons I would not treat with any iota of seriousness. Mm-hmm. He's a person I disregard because, one, he's bitter. He's like that jilted girlfriend, that you tell it's over and she's still hanging there.
I don't expect the lady.
Or a boyfriend, for that matter.
Right,
It's like that jilted lover, let me use that word.
If he's able to substantiate.
Who doesn't want to leave, yes. Okay? Who doesn't want to leave, but you're already through with them. So Sonko, now he has a day in court with PS Kibicho. Mm-hmm. And maybe we are waiting to see whether he can substantiate, but I can tell you, I can bet on my last dollar.
That he would not?
That he will not.
All right, well, you were part and parcel of the ODM brigade back then, and it was such a painful occurrence to be told that, yes, you're the ones who are propagating this and all that. Do you feel like, finally it's a sigh of relief? And if Mike Sonko is able to substantiate this, then really, can we point fingers at all? Is it necessary? Is it coming at a time that we really need this?
Well, as a member of ODM National Governing Council, a member of ODM Chairman Ruru Constituency, former candidate ODM Ruru Constituency, I was number 2. I've been in politics in ODM for over 12 years. And at no time, I've met His Excellency Raila Odinga personally and with groups of youth many, many times. And I don't remember and this I want to say it on TV, at one time or any other that you were ever told to go burn cars and loot and do other manner of things. I remember any time we would do any demonstration, even the tear gas Monday and Friday, every time we would tell each other that let's keep and bind by each other, let's work together, let no one go to any shop, loot or hit anybody. Let's keep on our road. At many times we would find things happening that we will not understand. I may know what to defend the government of Jubilee then, because that is not just Sonko talking. He was an insider of Jubilee. And as much as I would say we are working with Jubilee, let them, the same way Prime Minister said, let them clean their house. Whatever they did to us, if they did, it is their own problem to solve. If we lost youth because of them, ni Mungu atawajaribu.
Well,
and then I want to say something very Solomon has said. When I was in school, we were taught what we call 5 stages of grief, which starts with denial, then remember Dabda, it was Dabda, aggression, then after aggression it's bargaining, then after bargaining it is I've forgotten the other day, then there is acceptance. Sonko is going through that. He'll go through the 5 stages. He hataruka hata moja. So it's good we understand that is not sober enough when you look at psychologically. And I understand. I don't know why you should even Kibicho would have, I don't know. If Kibicho was good enough, don't take him to court. The other day we went to Raila's office. Mzee didn't meet him. Because angepea mzee nini? Mingi.
Hold it right there.
So
now,
it's better we don't even give him.
Ragalo, the point of conversation here is not Mike Sonko, but just how sometimes the youths actually are the very same people who are used by these politicians that we're talking about. And we really are trying to sanitize ourselves from that. We really are trying to get to that point where we'll be able to tell no to some of these individuals. And true to it, those are arguments that, would be substantiated or would be in a way, be looked at as valid points for that matter. So as we drop this one, and I know you are carrying the microphone, but I'm afraid we have to give a lady. So for the sake of balance, and then we'll come back to you. And we get to look at this and how involved the youths are, because we're coming to talk about BBI. It is going to be an emotive affair. It still is. It's going to be really a heated up debate. If we're not careful as youths, then we might be misused in such a scenario.
I think the most important thing that we have right now is actually having access to information so that at least we're able to inform ourselves on the facts on the ground as far as BBI is concerned. We want to have a conversation around how are young people involved in this document. And we have so many areas of intervention. Young people and persons with disabilities. After the initial BBI report, we have a consensus now that the 4 seats in the National Assembly are back. We want to see young people who are persons with disabilities representing their constituency in the National Assembly. I am very happy to have a talk about the judicial ombudsman, because now young people who have queries and complaints about what happens in the judiciary have a chance to air their complaints. Now, every Friday, these Kamata Fridays affect young people, mostly in the villages, and sometimes we may not have the money to go around this judicial system. We want to be in an environment where young people can actually question what happens in the corridors of justice at a higher level. Those kind of conversations, young people and procurement, prompt payment of invoices at a county level to ensure that young people don't go bankrupt. We want young people and the law. A very interesting discussion yesterday about a young man who was supposed to be given a tender to supply beds, but apparently he cannot now get the tender because of his criminal record. But what comes as a challenge to us then is how we are treating young people who have been in conflict with the law, keeping in mind that in Kenya, the majority of people who are in prison are between 18 and 35 for petty offenses. How then do we rehabilitate young people in our communities to ensure that they are part of our community and they have access to these resources, including procurement? So on that particular issue, I would actually pray for all the stakeholders involved to think about as opposed to just shunning these young people away, to bring them back to the fold, because chances are in every 10 young people that you meet, 1 or 3 are actually in conflict with the law. We cannot take them away, and we cannot ignore their contribution in the community.
Okay, you speak of involvement of the youth, and if we are to look at the BBI itself, then probably, I'm afraid, in as much as we say we are past that stage, we'll have to go back to the formation of the task force. We'll have to go back to the handshake. We'll have to go back to just how many youths were involved in this. And for the longest of time, we've had complaints of the fact that even when you look at the formation of the task force, there is barely a youth within that will be seated down there and speak on behalf of the youths. But would you then say that in the current document that we have as of now, that is in the BBI, that in as much as we did not have one of us part and parcel of the task force, then a lot of issues that revolve around, strengthening the youthful aspect have been incorporated in this particular document? Who goes first? The gentleman behind, or we bring it back to you? The microphone is just going as you're watching. Okay.
First, Ragalo paints a very good picture of what demonstrations are. No, he's very soft-spoken. So when he's talking about demonstration, he's making it look like a very peaceful thing that took place. What we did, they were just addressing issues. We forget how much violence was there, and how many youths were there, and how many youths we lost in violence, and some of them even today have gunshot wounds. So we need to move from youths being used as muscles to the brains, which is what BBI is trying to present. And in as much as we do not have a representation in the panel, our issues were raised. Right now, if I go to apply for a job and I have a HELB loan, I don't understand how you deny me a job because I have not cleared HELB loan. How am I supposed to clear it before you give me a job? So these are the issues that we need to discuss. These are the issues that affect
HELB loan. We're talking about a reprieve of how many years?
It's 4 years, and then after that, if
so a scenario where you're getting a job 5 years after,
you still don't pay the HELB loan until you get your job.
All right.
So when you get a job,
so the 4 years, we start counting the 4 years at what point? When you get the job?
After graduation.
And then after you get a job? Or?
When you graduate, you're given 4 years. And then if after the 4 years you still haven't
gotten a job,
they still give the break until the day you get a job.
Is this well documented within the document?
It is very well
I have gone through it, but I'd love for people to go through that. To understand that this is well documented, so that they can have a background of exactly what it is that they are getting themselves into, because the mechanisms of implementing what has been incorporated in the document, one of the issues that have been raised by the very same youths, just how realistic is this reprieve or tax reprieve that we are talking about?
You see, we need to move away from the roadside declarations.
Yes.
Where someone campaigns and tells us, Nikiingia, I will give you guys a job. We need to have our issues documented and put in the constitution.
Yes.
That is why I support the Youth Commission. We have the National Youth Council, which still doesn't work because it is not in the constitution. Once we have a youth commission, same way we have a gender commission. If you didn't look at BBI, if you have looked at BBI, you will see women were the main winners. In fact, BBI looks like a document for the women. This is because they have a national gender youth commission. Once we have a youth commission, that is now when we start discussing our issues without having roadside declarations. Nikikuwa president nitanunua vitanda zako. Now we know that we have it's called the one that gives us a provision for having tenders. That as a youth, I am supposed to get a tender from my county government or the national government. Thank you. But because it is not so well documented, I will go to my county and my county governor is in court right now for giving his son a tender. His son is a youth,
and that's the problem.
His son who's a youth.
Impunity is one thing that many people would question on whether indeed the document would address, especially on these clauses that we speak about. Bring back the microphone to Kegoli, but meanwhile, before it gets to him, let's first incorporate the gentleman behind. Nathaniel, leo umekuwa gentleman sana, ungangani microphone?
No, I want to listen.
All right, okay. Proceed. Who goes first?
Thank you.
All right.
First, Happy New Year to you.
Everyone, yes. Oh, the mic is off. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. As I'm listening to these gentlemen and ladies here, just worried because in the BBI we are told that there is a help loan for those people who want to go to higher education, but there can't be money for our policemen to go to Kiganjo and Stanley.
Okay.
You see, we are not getting inclusion in this BBI.
Okay.
So we are partisan in some ways. But wacha niulize my friend here. As they were demonstrating in town, how many businesses that were shut down?
Right.
How many lives were lost? Yet they are saying no one told them to go burn other people's car. No one told them to go loot from other people's business. And they want to tell us now today that Ruto is telling the Hustler Nation to go and burn people's car. How long have you seen these people, the motorbike and the border people, do this in our country?
They have not said that.
No.
Generally, all right.
Since when they started?
Okay.
They started earlier. So it's not after the narrative of the Hustler Nation.
Okay.
And does they understand what the Hustler Nation means?
What does it mean?
It means that
in your own capacity
anybody, the narrative is whoever is determined to be something or to do something.
Okay.
This is what we are saying, that we want inclusion from the common mwananchi, that he can go far to be a president or a deputy or an MP.
We are not pessimists, but just how possible is that, Kigoli, in the nation as it stands today?
Well, first of all, allow me to start from the point of where you started. And when you hear young people coming out and being used, it is because, something has been taken away from them. And if these people are economically empowered, they would spend less time going to riot on the streets and destroying other people's properties. They would concentrate more on creating wealth and moving the economy, of course, through the retail transactions that really influence the gross domestic product. And in this country, we are, as a people, concerned that Chapter 6 of the Kenyan Constitution has been decommissioned. When you look at Article 10 of the Kenyan Constitution on national values, most of our politicians do not even adhere to that. You look at the times when we are going into elections, and you would wonder what values we prioritize as a country. And this bothers me a lot, because as President Uhuru Kenyatta says, we lose 1 year to elections and lose the following year after elections. So what we are looking at right now is an economic downturn ahead of 2022. Right. And then again, an economic downturn after 2022. So how many productive years do we have in a span of 5 years? Perhaps 2 solid years. You get that scares foreign direct investment that would otherwise help to create jobs and create wealth in this country. Right. And when we see our even young leaders going to the podiums and inciting the public, hypnotizing the public, and like now beginning to reveal what happened in the past, you wonder what is their intention. And what we should be doing right now is to create that conciliatory tone than dividing our Kenyans. Because you look at the time BBI is coming and what is happening not only in this country, but also in the global sphere. Because right now, jobs have been lost, incomes have shrunk, and the economy is at its lowest in so many years right now. So what we should be looking at is, what is the BBI saying about the youth? And when it talks about creating these incubation centers, what essentially BBI means is that there is going to be wealth in the hands of young people, because they're going to be trained, they're going to be given money and taken through that process of investing that money. So a young man in Isiolo doesn't have to think about coming to Nairobi to get their dreams actualized. Are
you positive that this is achievable based on what we have seen on the current constitution as it stands, and looking at the amendments that the BBI proposes? Do you suppose there's some level of positivity that this can be achieved? That you will answer me after this break.
When the clock strikes 7:30 p.m. every Monday, it means it's time for...
The biggest challenge of starting a business in Kenya is the layers of licenses you need to pay.
The Grind. We tell you the do's and don'ts of business.
But the biggest fear was whether I'm going to make it in business or whether I'll lose my 150,000.
I say business is not about how much capital you have.
The Grind, every Monday at 7:30 p.m. It's been an amazing year in the kitchen here on The Throwdown. We brought you ugali and brown fish by Sophia. The tasty butter chicken from the classic Mayura restaurant. And the sweet Oreo cake dessert by Lillian. This year, we bring you bigger and better from more mouth-watering meals, kitchen hacks, restaurant reviews, and even street foods. Tune in to The Throwdown every Sunday at 6:30 p.m. When the clock strikes 7:30 p.m. every Monday, it means it's time for...
The biggest challenge of starting a business in Kenya is the layers of licenses you need to pay.
The Grind. We tell you the do's and don'ts of business.
But the biggest fear was whether I'm going to make it in business or whether I'll lose my 150.
Of untold stories.
The Baraza is back. We still have the ladies and gentlemen on standby. Let's take a look at some of the questions that you raised or some of your comments. Aloz Pakla says, bring more Chinese in Kenya and let them occupy, because after all, there is nothing much that is happening in terms of progress. And Lydia Mathia says, indeed, how do we treat young people in conflict with the law? The Judiciary Ombudsman will be a welcome reprieve for the thousands of youth caught up in the wheel of justice for petty offenses. And one Barnaba Tereba says, don't lie, there is creation of jobs. The guy who was given tender by government from Kiambu is crying now. And a couple of many other messages coming on board as we get to react. I just picked on some of all them that we have discussed about. Before we come to you, Kegoli, let's go back to the other gentlemen at the back and we get to hear what it is they have to say about the conversations that we're having this morning. And yes, many argue that the BBI is a good document. I'd want to assume that now that you're a youth leader of ANC, you are in support of the document. Before we get to hear from you, let's hear what Nordin Kagai, who's a lawyer, is going to say, the legal perspective of it, the reality of us realizing the document as it stands, and whether it's going to face some level of legal test, because after all, we've seen how the court battles can really be a hindrance to some of this progress that we witness.
Linda, I've taken a couple of minutes just to listen to what everybody is saying, so that I can actually come and debunk what I have in my mind. Now, the BBI, for example, I have some reservations when it comes to the BBI. First and foremost, as a judicial officer, I have an issue with the appointment of the ombudsman, if it is going to be courtesy of the president, because that in itself means he or she will serve the president. So it will be more or less like when you were in school, that prefect who never liked you. So they look at you, they'll always jot down your name in the noisemakers list, but they will always leave out their friends. So what we would want in an ideal situation, the JSC to do a proper vetting, then the appointment of the ombudsman should be via the Chief Justice, because we are talking about strengthening institutions. Now, you can't have an executive trying to have its arm in the judiciary to control the same judiciary. We want institutions to be strong. Now, when we go now to what we're talking about, the youth and BBI, to be honest with you, what the BBI is proposing for the youth is neither here nor there. It hasn't touched on the real issues facing the young men and women in this country.
Okay.
I'll give you an example. Last year in December, I had a football tournament in Dagoretti North. My tournament was dubbed Citizenship Rights Through Sports. So I did a legal aid and sports empowerment. So what I learned at the ground is that most young men and women don't have an ID card. Let's start from there. You are telling me I can have a business without paying tax for 7 years. As a lawyer, I'll tell you for free, you can't register any business without an ID. That's number one. You're being told the young men and women in this country do not vote. Don't take part in the decision-making process of this country. You have not been given an ID.
You had a conversation with them. What was the main reason as to why they do not hold
Now, I'll
IDs?
tell you, the thing is, when they go to the chief's camp, they ask for money.
To get IDs.
To get IDs. You're a Kenyan. Forget, you know, there are those who go via vetting. Forget those who are normally accustomed to vetting. The normal people also don't have IDs. So this is a young man with no ID, and you're being told you should vote. You're being told, I'm giving you a 7-year grace period, which you can't access because as a lawyer, I can't register a company for you without an ID. Now, challenge number 2. Now we are being told they'll open a youth commission. Do you know the NYC that we have currently? She said it is in the constitution. The NYC we have currently has an annual budget of 90 million. What can you do with 90 million to 65% of the population?
Okay.
So for me, I'll tell you this. The issues facing the people of Kenya have not been addressed because the problem facing the Kenyans is not a document. It's not the constitution. It is the political players. Once we change their software, because you know we can have the best, like for example, we have the best constitution. They have failed to implement it. They can't implement the constitution. Now you're saying let us go and alter it because we have failed to implement this. The best thing we need to do is we need to change the software of these leaders that we have, and that is the issue.
Akadima, on face value, do you agree that there's really nothing that is tangible for the people that is within the BBI document? I mean, as far as I'm concerned, the argument on ground is that the youths are the biggest beneficiaries of this document. Is it on face value or what?
Thank you so much, Linda, and to all our viewers. And I'm also very glad to be part of a conversation with very brilliant young people. And I think this is a generational mission that we are holding right now, discussing issues that are pertaining to the next generation, and we are the bearers. Number 2, youth is a passing cloud. There is no qualification. In fact, being a youth doesn't qualify you to have anything in life. It's just a stage in life where you have to pass, and it's a stage where you have to be nurtured and mentored for the next stage in life. So I want any young person who is listening to me this morning to know that youth is a passing cloud and it is not a qualification for you to get anything in life. Number 3, we are having this vital conversation on very key national issues, particularly the document of BBI. Somebody who works from ANC party, initially we were the founders of NASA and we were the vision bearers of the NASA dream that was taking many people to Canaan. And my friend Eric here will attest that we were journeying to Canaan, but they left us at River Jordan. They know the story. So us from ANC, we felt that at River Jordan, it was the height of betrayal of the daily struggles and hopes of our people. But despite the betrayal that took place at River Jordan, and
You're the vision bearer.
We were the vision
How do you allow for somebody else to come in and, you know...
You know, we are not a selfish political party.
Oh, no. Okay.
We have innovated this thing because we want to journey with the people going forward.
Okay.
Now, and you remember, Linda, and to our viewers here, that our brother called the Chief Justice Kenani is the one who helped us to fail the walls of Jericho when we arrived at Jericho. You remember the story. But beyond that, after the BBI task force and subsequently the steering committee were established, there were these key issues that were being canvassed within the framework of the BBI. And because they are national issues and we have a right to participate on issues that are public, we participated in the process. And we said that we want to listen, we want to wait for the report. So the report was out. The report encompasses 3 major aspects. Number 1, it is the policy/administrative proposals. Then there are those legislative proposals. The lawyers are here, they have dissected the report. Then there is the constitutional proposals. So there is this Constitutional Amendment Bill 2020, which many people are focusing on mostly. Yeah. And Linda, this is a fallacy. Many people are focused on the Constitutional Amendment Bill 2020, and they have forgotten that there are policy, administrative, and legislative proposals that are supposed to be implemented on a continuous basis without even waiting for a referendum.
Okay.
Now, there are some certain aspects my fellow leaders have talked about, and I want to just highlight some of them. The main issue that is affecting particularly the youth population is the issue of the economy. If we don't have a working economy, then we are not going to have opportunities for people who are going to advance their life, particularly for young people. Yeah. And how has BBI addressed the issue of the economy? If you look at the proposals within Article 18 of the Constitution Amendment Bill, they have talked about the issue of the centrality of the economy. And then they have talked about the issue of shared prosperity. This is a very key issue, and it was a thematic area in the BBI document. And they have addressed it exhaustively. I don't know whether we are lazy in reading or we have refused to read.
Reading is one thing. Reading is one thing. Reading is one thing. The policies are always beautiful, and you'd be told that. Walk into these offices, you'll find the best of policies in setting up. But the implementation is what we are questioning. The individuals that are driving this narrative are the people that we are questioning.
Now, let me address that. Let me address in summary. In summary.
Told us.
I want to no, it's okay. He can counter. He is allowed to counter.
He is allowed. You know why I'm saying
now the biggest beneficiaries of the BBI document are the hustler nations, despite the fact that they steal manifestos of other political parties. But they are the biggest beneficiaries. How has it been addressed? The BBI document has talked about shared prosperity, and the BBI document has talked about expanding the national cake. How do you expand the national cake? You involve more people in creating a productive economy. That means that we should talk about issues of creating a sovereign wealth fund. For example, Linda, if Turkana is giving Kenya oil, what is Kenya giving Turkana? If Muranga is giving Nairobi water, what is Nairobi giving Muranga in return? Okay. If Kitui is giving Kenya coal, what is Kenya giving Kitui in return? And we have all talked about this issue of shared prosperity, and we have put constitutional guarantees to address the issues of the hustler nation.
If we're talking about oil, oil
Linda,
is, the situation
if you
of oil.
Allow me to finish this thought.
Make it brief.
I'm summarizing.
Okay.
If you look at the constitutional guarantees of 35% going to counties, the hustler nation has been addressed through the constitutional guarantee of 35%.
So when you talk about the hustler nation, are you talking about individuals, that is Deputy President William Ruto and his supporters, or you're talking about the hustler down on ground?
I'm talking about the ordinary youth, because today we're talking about young people who are suffering, the poor of the poorest. The poor masses of our people, particularly the young people, have been addressed through the constitutional guarantees. Now, the second part of these guarantees, if we are having that 5% going to counties, and we have 5% going to every ward in this country, the question we should be asking, how do we ensure that we implement these guarantees? The question of having guarantees and implementation is different. Now it comes to the issue of goodwill and electing good leaders. Okay. So we are urging young people to elect good leaders who can implement the guarantees that are in the constitution.
Please,
so the issues of hustler nation are
addressed. Please, Linda, before he gave the mic to somebody else.
Yes.
I want him to tell us. He has just told us that our economy is not doing well.
Yes.
But our president the other day told us that we are losing 2 million daily.
Okay.
How then can he sit here and say that we are not doing well?
Okay.
I want him to tell.
So we have enough money to a point where we can.
We have enough money as per the president to do and to implement any other policy.
But corruption would not allow us.
Corruption has not.
Okay,
we have agreed for corruption to thrive. Let's just allow Solomon to come in. Let's allow Solomon to come in briefly.
I think it's good we allow the moderator to be in charge.
Just because it's coming.
It's her role to ask.
No, on this one is survival for the fittest. Because we only have 8 hours.
It is our role to ask the questions, and it is ours to answer them. We cannot be.
So you want to answer Moriah?
No.
All right.
I want to first answer you. You first said about inclusivity of the young people in the BBI. I would like to tell all of us, if you don't remember, let me jog your memory. The CEO of the BBI task force is one Dan Mwangi, a young person like us. The person who was in charge of all those guys in the task force.
Are you in agreement, Kigoli?
Yes, Dan Mwangi.
All right.
And
how young is young in this case?
Let me say this. Let me say this also. You know, we only carry our own ideas.
All right.
Let me say also that it is wrong for people to come on a national television and say there's nothing for the young people in the BBI. When we are saying that we are devolving 35% of our national revenue to the counties, and then you say that there's nothing for the young people. When we are saying that we are going to introduce the ward fund, and the ward fund is going to look for development projects right at the grassroots of that particular
probably
ward.
Eric and Nodin would want to say 15% has not been able to reach the county.
No, this is my point. Okay. Let me say this. Let us do an audit and let us not be lazy. Last time when I was here and we were discussing BBI, I talked about laziness.
Yes.
Since the inception of devolution, over 1 trillion has been sent to the counties. Now I want someone to tell me, out of that 1 trillion, which is that one coin that was not sent in the year 2019-2020. Don't tell me about 2020-2021. There are some few challenges, but before we get to the July,
to the last
where the fiscal year ends, all that money will be on the ground.
If so all this goes, then accountability is also a question.
That's another issue. Okay. Let us now talk about the resources first.
All right.
So we shall have money at the ground. We shall have the ward fund. We are going to have incubation centers. Let me shock you. When I went home over the holidays, my brother cleared the university, I think, around 2020, April. And I got him at home, and I went to his house, his small house, and I got an incubation machine. You know, this one that, does something and then you get chicks. And I asked him, what is this doing here? No, he told me, no, I'm the chairman of a group here, youth group here, and the governor, through his CEC, has given us this machine. So by the end of this month, we are going to have like 600 as the starting batch. Now, they are talking of 3,000. And we are saying we only have 15%. Suppose now we give the governor 35%. How many such groups is he going to help? So I'm saying, if it is not happening in your county, let me tell you, my dear friend, it is happening elsewhere.
Okay.
We have seen success cases. I'm not through. Let me wind up by this. Yeah. The biggest casualties when it comes to political violence are the young people. Now we are sitting down as a nation and saying, can we address our issue and avoid the winner takes all analogy?
Okay.
Whereby if you become the president, the power rests with you. Can we now have the leader of opposition?
You have the microphone so you can proceed.
We shall not have. We shall not have.
Yes, you are. That's what I'm saying. You have the microphone. Take up the chat.
We shall not have. Please allow me a second. Just a
second. It better be a second.
This is my closing on this. We shall not have.
All right.
But
say something and then allow the ladies to have the microphone, and then we go to Eric after you.
Yes.
Someone say the moderator. And that guy has been talking all along.
Oh, no, he only spoke once. He spoke once.
Okay.
He only spoke with you.
Yes. My friend set a very dangerous precedent that should not go unchallenged.
Okay.
You see, it is not government's problem that people don't have ideas. You understand? So everybody is constitutionally required to have that document upon attaining the age of 18.
18, yeah.
And then, you see, the Tanga faction, they advance their narrative in a way that it's less challenged, so it might look like what they are saying is true. But they will not tell young people that in this BBI document, that there is incubation centers, that you guys are going to be trained and be given money and you start businesses, as my good friend has said. You see, Kenya is ranked among the best countries in Africa. If you check in the records of Africa Development Bank or Africa Union, that is among the most innovative countries in Africa. So when a political leader of a stature in this country would address himself to wheelbarrows and mikokotenis and would not address himself to the innovation and creativity and entrepreneurial spirit of other young people in this country, would not want to address the issue of joblessness among university graduates, then I'm left wondering what policies are our leaders going to advance
Hold
as
it,
they run for
Kigoli,
office?
and we'll come to you later on, Nordin, to justify who is supposed to be responsible for people getting ideas, not before Eric comes in, and then we'll come to you, Kendi.
Okay, thank you. I've been listening us talking, and Linda, I want to say BBI is a document. Just like my friend from ANC has said, it has, it is actually sectioned into many groups. There's legislative and what have you. Our problem, I can give you many other BBIs we have. I'll give you an example of a BBI, Ndungu Commission. Listen, how it is coming with the youth.
Okay.
Ndungu Commission. People have taken land away from us. Youths don't get land because some of the land that would have been even cheaper were taken away. So the land that is available, it is available but very expensive. How do you want to tell me if Ndungu Commission was not implemented till today, and we have a good constitution 2010, and it's not yet well implemented till now, who is telling you that the BBI, when it goes through, and it is a document that you are putting as our leading document going in future, it's going to be implemented as much. Give you one document. So the problem we have, Linda, as much as you can work hard, it is the leadership in the country. And this is where our party ODM, you said leadership in youth, gave us an opportunity that we can challenge we can challenge ourselves and decide to run in the party. And I'm thinking it is time Eric Ragalo can take his papers to ODM and decide to run as a youth for president of this country.
Okay.
I think by the end of the week,
you will be presenting these
I will
papers
be representing my papers.
Remember,
Why?
the 1 million is not refundable.
No problem.
All right, okay.
1 million is not refundable, but 1 million is not money.
Yes. If
1 million, it is us to decide. We can push the party to give us a nod without the money.
All right, and this was one of my questions. This was one of my questions. Yes. Allow me to go.
Is the youth going to get a position?
Let me look with the ladies, and I know you have something to say. One of the reasons why Eric says that he, for a moment, decided to take a U-turn on the BBI or his support on the BBI is because there was no incorporation of the Health Commission.
Yes.
And so the question then would be, would just one thing that has not been incorporated, that is of your interest, get you to that point where you decide that, okay, the entire document is not as good just because one thing has not been incorporated. And we're coming to young leadership and just how much we've done as a country. Kendi.
One, I am very sad that the Health Commission was not incorporated.
Yes.
In the BBI. And I think that is a battle we still need to fight because we need the healthcare workers.
Why?
The healthcare workers issues,
okay.
Not as a health commission. Anyway, Nurdin said something about us not implementing the 2010 constitution. I'd like him, he's a lawyer, he's misleading us. The 2010 constitution has been fully implemented apart from one part.
Fully?
Yes,
okay.
that will take us through a referendum, and that is the 2/3 gender role.
Right.
They forget to tell us that the 2/3 gender role almost threw us into a constitutional crisis. That is one thing we need to address now in 2020. In 2021, before we go to an election. When people say that it's too early for BBI, I am wondering, in a country that goes into cyclic violence every 5 years, this is 2021, if we don't address issues for 2022, when are we going to address it? If we don't address the issues of women representation in parliament in 2021, before we go for an election in 2022, now we go into 2022, the CJ tells us that the parliament is not constitutional. Are we going back to an election again in 2023 because we were afraid of implementing the BBI in 2021? Again, the BBI is not constitutional change. It's an amendment. It is a bill. Same way I would have come with a bill for musicians and taken it to parliament. We vote for it as a bill, not as a multiple choice thing, because the person who took it as a bill took it as a bill. If there's one part you don't agree with, flop the whole thing.
The two-thirds gender rule did not sail through. Do you suppose then, or don't you think then it would have been wise for us, if we've been able to implement the entire document, as you rightfully put it, apart from this particular one, wouldn't it have been wise for us to implement this particular one, and now we start having a conversation?
We cannot implement the two-thirds gender rule without a referendum.
Okay.
And again, why are we going for a referendum on one issue when we have other issues that have been bothering us? Since you're going into a referendum, why don't you bring other issues that we have tried and tested the Constitution for 10 years and see what works and what does not work?
Let's have Muriah and then Nordin. Let's have Muriah briefly. We're going to come to you.
Why are we being misled by Nani? That the Constitution has been fully implemented. Just reason. I'm now answering you. If it has been fully implemented, why do we have corruption? Why do we still have people? Listen. Why do we have striking doctors? Okay. Why don't we have money to cater
make sure
for
that we're able to hear you?
Judiciary. Why do we have all these kind of problems facing, and now Solomon is telling us that we must go a BBI way to solve our problems. Yet, in our constitution, things have been implemented.
These are provisions within the constitution. But even Linda.
So let's take
a step reply. Okay. Let's allow her to go to reply.
Let me just. Okay. I'm supposed to reply to what she said and what he said.
We will come to you. We'll come to you. All right.
So I want to begin with what he said, that BBI is neither here nor there, and I'll be very practical with what we have
had.
Make it
brief though.
Yes. At a mashinani level. Number one, my biggest disappointment is that we have not prioritized mental health in terms of implementation moving forward. There was a recommendation to have a mental health commission, and this is something that we actually need in this country, noting that we have high cases in terms of suicide, brutal murders by young people. We need to get to a place where we're taking care of the mental health of young people. Number two, when we discuss about funds coming to the county level, it is of utmost importance. We may talk on a point of privilege, but I know that there are young people who are waiting for this fund to activate the creative economy. All these online content and influencers that we have around, their livelihood hangs on the ability for the government of Kenya, through the devolved structures like now the Word Fund, to ensure that they have perhaps infrastructure that allows them to produce high quality content, because not all of us can fit informal employment. We need to have money at a ward level that ensures that the creative economy is actually activated. Issues of the two-thirds gender rule are of utmost importance. I am a young person involved in movement building for young women leaders in Daughters of the Mountain and Daughters of Kenya. What we are seeing now is an effort to have more and more women, not only in the National Assembly through nomination or through top-up, even for consideration as deputy governors at a county level, because all these seats that are being created, mind you, even talks and discussions on having an expanded executive, we have imagined the very same faces that we see in our political circles to be the beneficiaries of those 5 top seats. So how about we reimagine those 5 seats with consideration to young women and young men of this country? It is not actually impossible. But the biggest challenge would be movement building. We had a very poor show in terms of the BBI conversations at the initial stages. Women were really giving their recommendations, and as young people, we are not really built strong movements to support our causes at that level. But now, the reality that we have now is such that we have an opportunity to movement build within political parties, within the private sector, to ensure a reimagination of an expanded executive, of an expanded and considered voices of young people at a county level, and even in terms of financial distribution still at a county level.
Linda,
allow Nordin to come in.
No, let me take him to class real quick. He says the ID isn't a prerogative of the government. That's a lie. Why do you go to the chief's camp? Why do you go to the chief's office?
It's a government
and
office.
Then your ID has these words, Government of the Republic of Kenya. Very fast. Now to her, she says the constitution has been implemented fully. I won't go so much into it. I'll give her a simple illustration of how the government undermines the constitution. the occurrences in the Nairobi County. The law is very clear. You have no governor, no deputy governor. An acting governor, a by-election is set, gazettement of aspirants. And then you come and change that, relax, bring that, and now you want to have a deputy governor. When you look at the County Governments Act, Section 32D, it clearly states that for one to ascend into the deputy governor's office, there needs to be a seal of the governor. The acting governor cannot purport to have the seal for the deputy governor to be sworn in. Now, let me bring back to the discussion, youth and BBI. You see, I sit here and I'm sad because the topic is youth and BBI. But we have changed this into a tanga-tanga and pro-BBI conversation. We have changed ourselves here into a lobby group. And I will never stand as a lobby group. We need to talk about the youth, the aspect of the youth. We are now having the BBI team, the tanga-tanga team. We need to have the youth team. Because let me tell you something, the future is for the young. We have the advantage of time. The policy they are making will affect us. The young men and women of this country need to rise up and offer alternative leadership. And how do you do that? Seek elective office. The challenges that face us as young men and women are at the administration level and also at the policy level.
You know, I'm curious.
Let me just finish. Let me just finish this. Let me just finish.
Linda actually
what I'm saying. Let me just finish. Relax. Let me just finish. What I'm saying in essence, you see, the challenges that these people in the 80s, 70s, and 90s face as young people are not the same as us. In the 80s and 90s, they would finish school and get jobs. In the 80s and 90s, they would get IDs in school. Right now, things are different. You finish school at 23 years, graduate, and you're told you need to have 5 years experience. Or you're supposed to be born with experience. Those are things we need to change. And how do you change them? You need to
standing without ANC. Let's allow Academa come in. It better be 1 second. It better be, yes, one word.
What I want to tell my sister, this is not a political conversation, but I will tell my sister that BBI has not been fully implemented because
2010
the money, yes, because the money you're holding has not changed. We were supposed to have a new currency without a face of a person. Okay? Is that not there? So that was supposed to be implemented. It was so simple. It is so simple.
All right,
that was very simple.
And you know, I want us to probably answer this. And the best people who are able to answer, 30 seconds.
Yes.
30 seconds.
Yes. It is very okay.
30 seconds.
It is very okay for young people to belong to different political ideologies.
Yes.
It is very okay for young people to hold different opinions. The only thing that we need to do is to arrive at a consensus on what matters for us the most. When we have a discussion saying that we have turned this discussion into a lobby group, that is exactly what we're supposed to be doing. Lobbying from a different angles to ensure that our best interests are met where we are. Arguing that young people then don't have a political voice, and yet these are the very same vehicles that are allowing us to get to these positions of influence is not so.
And probably that answers my question, because I wanted to ask you this, Kadima. I mean, honestly, do you have any standing as a youth without ANC? Do you have any standing as a youth without ODM? If at all we have to say now we have to coin a narrative, or we have to have a conversation that, you know, we're focusing as, we're focusing on addressing the issues as youths, as opposed to, you know, as youths from ANC, youths from Tanga-Tanga. And reality also is that we cannot overlook what he says, because within our very own political parties, or the parties that we align with, we have also not been able to address these issues as expected.
Thank you so much, Linda. First of all, our politics in Kenya is structured along political parties, per se. It is unlike Southern Sudan, where they are structured along who can marshal the highest number of military troops. So we must acknowledge that politics in Kenya is structured along political parties. So if you want to have an active involvement in Kenyan politics, you must join or form your own political party. That is number one. Okay. Then number two, I have my own standing as a young person, because when I'm in ANC, I am in ANC because I participated in forming ANC. I am participating in popularizing ANC as a party. So ANC itself as a party, the ideologies and the manifesto we are advancing to the Kenyan people, and that we have been advancing before, is I am part and parcel of that process. So ANC is me, and me am ANC. So you can never separate me, the two of us, because I'm part and parcel of that.
Until that time you decide to defect.
Until that time when I decide, not per se defecting, to exit the party. But I don't think I'm going to exit anytime soon. Thirdly, Linda, we are having a very interesting discussion here, and have had Waruguru talking about BBI did not create, they wanted a mental health commission, but at least they were lucky. BBI proposed the Department of Mental Health, Wellness and Happiness. There's a department that's been created called Mental Health, Wellness and Happiness. So at least they advance the people the happiness. It is there. It is there.
Yeah, it is
if
there.
You get a chance to read, and that's why I'm saying we need to read the legislative proposals and the policy proposal that are in the BBI. I heard somebody here, was it Eric or Kendi, talking about the health commission. I think it was Kendi. If you look at the legislative proposals, there has been a proposal of establishing a health service commission. It is there in the BBI. Note, people are just focusing on the Constitution Amendment Bill. The Health Service Commission has been proposed, and it has been anchored to do the HR, the human resource component, to ensure that the HR policies are regular and they are universal across counties.
Not with mastered authority, though.
Yes, unlike now, where counties have their own policies of employing doctors at different terms, where a county will employ a doctor and pay them differently from one county to the other. There is no standard template on how doctors are engaged. So the Health Service Commission that has been proposed in BBI has been given that part. The
advisory.
No, it is.
Advisory, or is it?
It's not an advisory. It has about 10 functions. It has about the Health Service Commission has about 10 functions, and I will urge Eric, because even his party is the founder member of BBI, he should be knowing more than I do, because they are more proponent.
And that's why I'm voting no, whether I'm a member of that party.
Yes, and I support his right.
Yes,
I support his right.
And I know what I want.
I support his right. I support his right to disagree. Linda, I support Eric's right to disagree with his own political party, because that is the essence of democracy. But the Health Service Commission that has been proposed in BBI is very, and by the way, I was at some point before the BBI report was released to the public, I was where Eric was, because I was not supporting BBI. I was seeing it as a document of the betrayal of the struggles of the people. I said that before. But after reading the BBI document, and after canvassing the document within our party structures, and after our party leader presenting at Bomas of Kenya and saying that we want the following issues encompassed in the final document that will be presented before the people, our 15 demands were addressed and we were satisfied. And once we applied our minds, we said, now the good document that we are going to push forward is good. And as political parties, we must take decisive decisions.
Just how many youths are privy to this information?
Now,
we're coming to you, and then we come. Kenny has a point. It better be 30 seconds.
30 seconds, Linda, to
make it very short. 30 seconds, and then we come to you.
First of all, I'd like to correct Nuruddin. You know, voters are very good at sitting down pretty and blaming the constitution for everything and blaming leadership for everything. When we started this conversation, we started with Sonko. By the way, I am embarrassed that he was the Nairobi County governor and he was voted for by the youth. So when you go back to the constitution and say that it was not implemented because we have corruption, same people talking about corruption are the same people who are backing people who have records of corruption. Then go back and blame it on the constitution that it has not been implemented because we have corruption. When you talk about 2 billion, I'll go back to Kadnan. When you talk about 2 billion, it is not just the presidency. How much has your governor stolen? How much have your MCAs stolen? Do you ask them how they're using money? Ama we just go back to the president and say, ameshinda kufight corruption. You as a voter, you as a youth, need to also keep your leaders accountable. Then don't go back to the constitution and say the constitution has not been implemented. Have you implemented it by voting leaders who meet the Article 6?
Okay. Another thing that is a problem right now is that, you have the privilege of sitting in the presence of your party offices. Solomon is right next to the helm. I'd say the likes of Regalo are pretty much close to, are just within the party. And so they have had the privilege of going through the document. Just how many youths really have the privilege, if we are to talk about it today? How many of them have the soft copies? How many of them have the hard copies? How many of them will make a decision based on having gone through the document today?
You look at your present setting and then your future projection. You walk around the country today and you see thousands of young people lacking even prospects for the future. And that is a problem. Our 2010 constitution was never an economic document. It was addressing structures and legalese. And lawyers listen. Lawyers reflect. And my friend misquoted me. But then again, the point is this. The point is this.
Okay.
The point is this. What BBI is bringing into the 2010 Constitution is now the economic software. When people are going into rallies and they're discrediting the BBI process.
Hold it right there. Hold it, Kigoli. The 2010 being, a structural document, a document that is supposed to, straighten the structures that we have today. I've had conversations with very many people that argue that the biggest problem that bedevil us today is the fact that we do not have our systems right. We do not have our structures right. So if this did not address the problem of the structures, setting them straight and proper, what makes you think that if the economic document comes in, then we'll have good structures to ensure that all this is well implemented?
But when people speak about systems not right, what do they mean? You understand? 2010 Constitution took leadership to where the people are.
Okay.
That's why we are having MCAs. You understand? That's why right now you can walk into remote areas and you see roads opening up.
Yeah.
And that's all thanks to governors working hand in hand with MCAs. And then back to the point I was bringing out. What we need to do right now, and it is the defining challenge of our time, how to create and sustain economic growth and development. And what BBI is addressing is putting wealth in the hands of young people, making young people credit worthy. Right now, you would ask yourself, how many young people are credit worthy? How many can afford even a loan to start a business? It's near to impossible. And what this document is essentially going to do is to make sure that these young people are trained, given money, and are supported towards the course and journey of starting a business so that we can increase wealth. And when people have disposable income, they can make purchases that will speed up the growth of a gross domestic product.
You can only understand what he says if you go granted Solomon.
Less than a minute. 1 second. When President Kibaki got in power in 2007, okay? There was no BBI, there was no 2010 Constitution.
But the
in
economic
2002,
structures?
there was economic empowerment to youth. People got jobs. Do you need a BBI to do that?
All right.
It is leadership. It is leadership.
It is Solomon's style. Solomon is going to support
It is
you on
leadership.
something because he's a pro-BBI.
They're not referencing anything.
So,
okay.
I think I've accepted 30 seconds intervention and my time has been eaten.
Pole.
But I will speak.
Okay.
And please don't interrupt.
Please don't. Don't make it 5 or 3 minutes.
One, I want to say this. The young people of Kenya have been minding other people's business and not their own.
Okay.
I mean, why would a young person be speaking of two-third gender rule? Why would a young person be speaking?
Because let me answer you. Let me answer
kindly.
Solomon, let me read this. Let me read.
I will
not
not allow.
Want me as the moderator to say something.
Kindly.
Hold it, Apana. I want to counter this. Let me just read this message.
If we are
Solomon,
going to
hold it right there. Allow me to read this message because we also have to involve the viewer. And then it is in
just when I start
connection.
speaking,
It is in
now when
connection
we
with
are
what
going
you're
to
saying.
involve the viewers.
No, Nerea says this. Nerea says
I don't
this.
know.
Probably an answer.
I don't think it's good.
No. We are coming back to him. Nerea says this. Can we talk about the place of young women post BBI? We must ensure the positions created for top up include them. This can only be achieved if they are at the decision-making table. Let youth leagues in political parties take charge. Probably this answers your question. Why should they be involved? As a youth, it does not make you less of a woman. You can be a youth and a woman at the same time.
Can I speak now?
All right.
What you did,
okay.
you intervened
you jumped into the conclusion.
at a very early,
okay,
you jumped the gun.
Proceed.
This is what I mean. And this is a fact.
Okay.
If you go to the machinani you keep on talking about, where you come from, you will know that whenever gender is mentioned, what comes to my mind and what comes to so many people's mind is women.
Okay.
And youth is not women. Youth is men and women. What I mean by saying that young people should not be minding other people's business and they should first mind their own business. You find someone saying that, oh, commission, health commission. Another one is saying, old people. The president himself, when addressing us at KICC, said, young people of the Republic of Kenya, how do you feel when you see that you're the biggest section of the population, yet much of your issues are controlled by those who belong to a small section of the population. It is because of that reason. BBI is telling us that it is giving us a youth commission. That they are going to give us a reprieve for 4 years before we start paying the HELB loans. That we are going to have incubation centers. Are we together?
Yeah.
And young people cannot hold that and run away with it and forget everything else. I like women. Women have picked to that. And by the way, they don't care about what the BBI is saying in other clauses. They only want to focus on that because they know that is where their benefit lies.
Because they have been cheated before.
No, because they know what they want. Young people in this country, my friend, do not know what they want. And that's why you say, let me say,
it's also not good to generalize.
Please, Linda, you must protect me because these guys.
Let me tell you something. But again, we don't have too much time.
We cannot turn this to a market. We cannot, my friend.
Means that
let's allow him 30 more seconds.
Please.
Is not ready to create job opportunities to Kenyans.
Let's allow him 30.
Let us allow this. Let us not allow this one to look like a market.
Order.
No, Linda, have you heard what Muraya said?
Yes.
Have you heard what he said?
This time I must finish.
Very dangerous. That is in regards. That is your opinion. That is dangerous as per your opinion.
No, like when there is a tax holiday.
Let's allow Solomon to finish.
So this one, I must finish. I must finish. And I must
30 seconds. 30 seconds.
That all the time, young people get an opportunity to elect one of their own to parliament, to county assembly, to senate, to the presidency. What do? And then you tell me, you're here telling me, relax.
And honestly, what have they done? What have they done? The people who are at the top of the helm right now.
They start complaining immediately after putting people to office.
Let's take a step back.
Yes.
One of the main reasons as to why young people do not identify or feel that they don't identify with this BBI document is access to information. And very clearly the challenge to the BBI team is to ensure that factual information gets to young people, not necessarily through the political leaders, but through objective forums where young people from across the divide can engage on this document. We have seen cases, and these are actually like the truth. We have seen cases of people who want to use BBI conversations as a launching pad for other stuff for their own personal interest, missing the point that we need to leverage on our internet connectivity, our infrastructure back at home in terms of the town barazas to engage young people factually on these documents. That is why when we come here for this discussion and we are engaging using some very, very difficult words, fine, it's all very rosy and very practical at the end of the day in terms of implementation. But unless we break down the BBI concepts in an easy to understand way in which that Wanjiko who is in Nyeri is able to understand the tangible benefits accruing to the young people, they will not identify with it. Now, the risk that we have right now is that the carriers and the vision bearers of this BBI is mostly the political elite.
Yeah.
And we have not seen, other sectors, be it in the private sector or even the main BBI team itself, coming out strongly. Perhaps we will see it when now we go to the county assemblies and moving on forward. But carrying on this conversation needs to be very, very objective and needs to be run in a point whereby nobody is using it as a launching pad for their own selfish interest.
We have a maximum of 9
that's the
minutes
only
left.
way we will connect poverty, BBI, creative economy and BBI, women and youth issues and BBI. A factual conversation across all board. The very same way women have been doing it.
Yes.
We have seen women from the ODM and all the other parties coming together to fight for their own interest and build their own movements. That is the very same way we can achieve youth matters in this BBI report by actually building movements born out of factual discussions.
All right, so we are closing this, and in 1 minute, everyone.
Okay,
so
I want to ask Solomon, and I want to put it this way here. Do you know what I'm passing through? Because of the same government that we are told that is more concerned of youth. We were told to have companies that we can access 30% government procurement.
Okay.
I got one. And I'm telling you, I'm about to be auctioned because of the recent tenders that were given by the government to build lockers and desks. And I have supplied food to schools. But I have not been paid a penny.
And someone here is telling me that 30% is coming to the counties so that we can continue being tuendelee kufinyiliwa huko mashinani.
At least it's a pending bill.
Now I'm asking,
it's a
the
pending
president
bill.
himself rounds the program, but he is now mute. And again I'm saying, na ninauliza, akasema kwamba pesa inapotea milioni 2 ama bilioni 2 kwa kila siku. Hiyo ni kusema aje? Ana ufahamu kwamba kuna ufisadi unaoendelea. There is corruption that is going on. And he is in charge. So he is not taking charge.
Coming from the horse's mouth, proceed, give it to Nordin. But then again, Eric, you're 1 minute. You've heard him speak.
Yeah,
it is unfortunate to hear such a story, but the truth is that it is happening.
I would want to tell our youth that let's get into politics, let's get the seats that we need to get. I have vied, this is the 3rd time that I'm going to be in the ballot, and I'm going to challenge the master himself, Raila Amolo Odinga, for presidency. I'm not smiling. I know the road ahead is tough.
You
only have to have the muscle, not on your hand, but in your mind and in your heart, to go to that kind of challenges. I've had many other challenges as again a Luo who's always been Kikuyu land, fighting, wrangling through, and I've made inroads there. Solomon knew me through that road. And I am going to challenge Raila Odinga for presidency. We will go for nomination. I will beat him. Why is he better than me?
All right, that's good.
At 30, at my age, Raila was doing the same. He was challenging the government. So why are you youths, the same way someone said, and this is Solomon, why are you clinging on your other people? Why don't you find your channel and get there?
Do we have the Bobby Wines? Do we have the Chabisas? Do we have the Malemas? Do we have them in the country today?
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I will vote for you.
Congratulations.
You.
I will.
I will vote for you.
I have one. And a lady, you see. Raila is bluesing, you see.
Asubuhi saa 12.
Yes.
That's the direction we need to take. Yeah. Also, the BBA does not only talk about the policy, it also talks about there is a part of citizen responsibility. And I would urge the youth to be more responsible in voting for leaders. There is something about quality versus quantity. We want quality leadership. We do not want the kind of leadership, youth leaders that go to embarrass us in parliament. The kind of youth leaders that my mother looks at and like, vijana hizi ndio kazi mnataka tuwapatie ndio mwende kufanya hiyo kazi ambayo mnaenda kufanya huko. We also need to shift from blaming the government and shift from blame games to offering solutions. Whenever you blame something, offer a solution to what you are saying. We also need to move from being used by politicians, where politicians use us, someone is corrupt. We keep talking about corruption in government. Who votes for these corrupt leaders? 70% of the population. Who are the youth? Once you move from the corrupt camps, once you move from supporting corrupt people, that money will not even require BBA. Right. It will come to us.
What I tell my fellow young men and women is that for the youth to actually have a say in Kenya, for you to shape the future of Kenya, we first have to be united. We have been divided, and that is the issue. It's divide and rule. And they have suppressed us to poverty so they can use us to picket and to fight their political battles. What we need to do is, first and foremost, before we even talk about offering alternative leadership, which I support, we have to be patriotic. Love Kenya more than we love ourselves. Because if we are going there for selfish interests, there's no difference between them and us. It will only be the age. True. So what we need to do, we have to be visionary, selfless, and patriotic. So that when we say we are offering alternative leadership, when we are on the same table as them, we talk about youthful issues. When we talk about economic and political freedom for the young men and women of this country, that is the only way we'll save this country. Because at the end of the day, if we don't offer that alternative leadership, we will always rant on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. We need to move from Twitter. The anger we put on Twitter need to be brought in our votes. And what do I mean? We need to raise the integrity level of leaders to stop electing clowns. When we increase the integrity level, we will only vote for people with a vision, people who are here to serve you, not people full of rhetoric. And so for me, to fellow young men and women, it is a challenge to wake up.
Indeed. All right. As we sanitize that and get to you, you can give. You can get your 1 minute.
Thank you. BBI suffers the risk of misinterpretation because a section of the politicians choose to pick the politics of it and not to advance the goodness, the economic angle of BBI. This document comes with an economic promise, and if we are good enough and are able to think about ourselves and our children, then we need to also examine BBI against the scales of the economy. And I want to advance heavily on the economy because that is the defining challenge of this time. And you've seen even foreign governments through executive orders and policy initiatives, and what we need to do as a country is to appreciate that BBI, for the first time, is setting the promise of young people in the Constitution. Because you've seen how policies can change over time in this country. You can wake up, look tomorrow, and things have changed. But when our promise is sitting in the BBI, and then it's not easy for people to change it overnight because it has to go through a very lengthy process. And as I wind up...
We have no time.
Yes.
30 seconds.
10 seconds.
10 actually, yes.
Moving forward, it is down to the people of Kenya to decide which way forward for this country. When you're faced with that decision, when you go to that ballot, when you get to voting for this BBI, look at BBI not because William Ruto has said this or Raila has said that, but look at it on the basis of what will my children gain from this document? How will it make my life better? 2 years from now, will my life be better or will I be worse off?
It is almost certain that we are going for a referendum from what he says. We come to you.
Okay, thank you so much. First of all, I'm very glad that we had this discussion. Secondly, as a political party called ANC, we have interrogated the document and we are fully supporting the BBI process. And we have enumerated our reasons through our public releases. And we want young people to see the opportunities of economic inclusion. And I'm going to recruit him to join our party because he's going to be a very good advocate of Uchumi Bora Manifesto. And then if you look at the prospect, young people must join political parties so that they can be able to fully participate in the politics of this country. And I like what Eric is doing. He wants to rival Raila Odinga for the ticket of the presidency. But I want to tell him that that is an exercise in futility. But I support him. Why? And I have a reason. Allow me to finish. Allow me to finish. Allow me to finish, please. Eric, you know the ODM constitution. Your own party constitution says that the party leader is the automatic flag bearer for president. So unless he removes Raila as a party leader, and you can look at the ODM constitution, it's a public document. Unless he removes Raila Odinga as a party leader, that is when he qualifies to run for president. Otherwise, I think
very same party is the one that fronted this. Maybe they have had a review of the same constitution.
That is a diversionary tactic. And I wish Eric could just switch to ANC where he gets a fair shot to run.
All right, Eric, you'll have the last shot to respond to that.
Let me say this. Eric, all the best.
Thank you, bro.
But
again, you are in agreement.
Don't put it.
Yes, very slim. Let me say this to the young people of this nation. Like I said, pick what is yours in the BBI. Forget about the rest. The other people will take care of themselves. Take care of yourselves first. Number two, like you put it, they say we need a Mandela moment in this country. But I'm saying, I'll now coin it to my own argument, that we need a Julius Malema in Kenya. We need a Bobby Wine in Kenya. Someone we can all rally behind. Julius Malema today has 44 members of parliament. 45. Actually 45 in South Africa.
Yes.
Tell me which is that bill that they will not lobby for and pass it in parliament. Today we are sending young people, I think 10 or 8, to the National Assembly. What do you expect them to do? We do not need to join political parties in Kenya as young people. We need to form a formidable political party that will even have a presidential candidate and members of parliament, so that once and for all, we get out of the menu where we are eaten every day and be on the table and we start eating them. now.
Thank you. There's nothing much we can do, unfortunately. Thank you so much. Eric, 10 seconds.
10 seconds. I want to tell my brother that it's not impossible to remove Raila as a party leader. We'll have the delegates. And remember, there is always a belief.
Edwin Kigoli, thank you so much. Waruguru Kiai, thank you so much. Kendi Mbaya, thank you so much. Eric Regalo, thank you so much. Murai.